Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Survive the Spin, Effie Patriot, Steve on the Level, Thomas van der Zander, Cannabear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unamento, Iron26, Endless, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Playing Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links to Patreon are below this video. With that, I'm going to hand across to whoever is in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Be a baseless assertion or a logical fallacy, like literally. And if you're able to recognize that, you have nothing to worry about, man.
That's why it's been so.
Because that's literally how they have to approach this topic, man.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
We're just
How's it
talking
going?
about like there's been a lot happening in the last 24 hours, I guess, right? A lot of vids came out, so that's what we're talking about.
I have no idea. All I've done is mess around with my computer for 24 hours straight. 36 hours probably. About a day and a half.
Really? Still? Like, is it gonna be all right or what?
I think I figured it out, but every time I think I figured it out, it then does something wrong. It's been like it for 2 straight years. Anyway, one of those.
Well,
It sounds good right now.
Well done.
It sounds good right now.
Everything seems to be fine. It all works during the show, at least.
so wait, did you get a new computer? I'm sorry, I didn't get, like, you got a new computer or you fixed what you already had?
I fixed what I already had. I had a new computer 2 years ago, and it never functioned correctly. And it's the same computer. It's just had multiple changes of parts. But one of its primary problems is that it doesn't have very good cooling, which is to say it's designed to run passively. And while they claim it can cool a 250 watt graphics card and a 150 watt CPU, it cannot. So as a consequence, what you have to do is undervolt everything, turn everything down, not undervolt necessarily, but turn the clocks down, which effectively reduces the voltage and reduces the power. So I think what has happened most recently, and the reason it's taken me a long time to track down, is because both the graphics card and Windows itself, which is predominantly CPU control, have both did an update within 24 hours of each other. So normally you get an update, something starts going squirrely, and you think, well, I've just updated the graphics drivers, it must be that. Let's see if I can figure out what's going wrong. But because it did a full-on, full-blown Windows update, and then started to go wrong, I'm like, okay, so what's causing the problem? Is it the CPU? Is it the GPU? Is it graphics card drivers? So you just have to systematically work your way through all of it. And nothing seemed to be fixing the problem. Where you think you'd fix it and then it would be still broken. But I think, this is my assumption after doing a load of tests, fortunately again because I'm very familiar with testing the stupid thing, I know what it will do at certain voltages and what power it'll pull. So as an example, one of the things I do to stress and test the GPU is run one of my daughter's games, Lego Fortnite, and it just happens to be very, very graphically intensive. Don't know why, it just is. So I can jump up on the spot, load a load of scenery around me, and it immediately pegs the graphics card at 100%. Very useful. So that's what I do, and I happen to know what amount of power it will pull at a given voltage. So after fiddling around for 36 hours, I thought, once I fiddled enough to get it to what I thought would be stable, that is to say it's not crashing anymore, I thought, right, let's test it with Lego Fortnite. And immediately I noticed that at the voltage I use, it's about 10 or 12 watts less. I'm like, that's weird. So I just contacted Craig and I'm like, could it be that the last graphics card driver has improved the efficiency of these cards? That is to say, squeeze out more power where they'd got more headroom that I'd done it myself with. I'd squeezed out the extra efficiency myself, tuning it. Well, if they've then done the same thing, that could just push the graphics card into instability. So I think that is what has happened. That is to say, they've tuned it at NVIDIA. Now they've been out for a couple of years or however long they've been out, maybe a year. I can't remember how old this graphics card is in terms of its production time. But given the amount of time, they've obviously tweaked the efficiency. And given that I've done it as well, it means it's pushed it into instability. So hopefully, after 36 straight hours of pissing around and going nuts, I think I figured out what the problem is. It isn't the CPU, although I have fiddled with that continually as well. Anyway, there we go.
So would you feel some way if someone specifically offered to finance or pay for a new system, a whole new setup, based off of all the work that you put in into
Somebody did.
trying to make this work?
No, somebody did 2 years ago. So I had a previous computer that lasted about 8 years, and I invested heavily in it, as in bought the very, very best components that were available at the time, and it lasted 8 years running the show. And every time anything went wrong, I took it to the same guy, Craig, and said, fix this immediately. If a hard drive failed, get me the really good one that's top of the range and can go into a new computer if need be. And same with the power supply, various other things that failed, graphics cards. And I just kept it up to date, put new parts in it when they failed. Eventually, someone came along and said, I'll buy you a new computer. So they bought me a completely new computer. And from day one, it was horrendous. It just did not work. And over the course of the last 2 years, almost every component in it has been changed. But the core case is all that remains. And it is the case, which is a horrendously expensive case. A computer case costs between $50 and $200 if you buy a really nice one. This one's $1,000. So it's a really lovely case, but I think they've just spec'd it beyond its capabilities. So as a consequence, no matter what you put in it, you have to turn whatever you put in it down so that it can cool itself. Once it's stable and turned down, it's fine. But then any little update that Windows gets or the graphics card drivers, anything like that, immediately makes it unstable again, and you've got to start the whole process again. Just a constant faff. Normal computer, you shove the graphics card in, you don't do anything. You don't have to tune it to make it work. It just works. Same with most, not true at the moment, but with most people's CPUs. You chuck them in, you turn them on, you might enable XMP to make the memory work a bit quicker, but other than that, most people don't do anything, and it just works. This, if I did that, it would immediately cook itself. So you're like, ugh. I mean, when it works, it's lovely because it's completely silent. It's lovely because that's exactly what I wanted, a completely silent PC. What I didn't imagine was that 2 years after getting the damn thing, I'd still be fiddling with it every time I get a little update. But that is how it is.
I see.
The parts in it are fantastic, but they are absolutely cobbled to all hell. They start off as exceptionally good quality parts, and to get them to function, you have to cobble them. You have to turn them all the way down. So, anyway, I'll stop moaning.
Did you buy a UPS, Nathan?
No, I don't need one.
I think you do.
Why? I had a power glitch the other day. We had a thunderstorm, right? And because that's a byproduct of having an exceptionally high power supply. I think it's 750 watts. And the computer under full load pulls about 250. So it's got huge amounts of capacitance. So the other day, everything switched off. Power amps, preamp, lights, everything. Except the computer. So everything came back on, the lights flicker off, then come back on again a second later, and I've got no sound, but everything's still running. Why? Well, because there's enough capacitance in the power supply to keep it running in that split second that the power tripped off because of a thunderstorm. But that's pretty extreme. But typically, especially since having the mains all done, we had all of our fuse board done about 6 months ago. And since then, everything seems to be fine. We've even turned the heating on without issue, so we're not freezing cold. So I don't think I need a UPS.
No, you're missing the point of the other benefits of having a UPS.
Here we
So
go.
a UPS will filter your incoming voltage and will give you pure sine wave. So you'll be surprised if you put a logger on your power supply from your home, how much it deviates, how much harmonics there is. And because you're persisting with a passively cooled computer, you're going to run the risk of its wear and tear. And a UPS will extend the life of your computer. I guarantee you, as long as it's a good, pure sine wave UPS.
Maybe. I'll have a look.
No, don't have a look. Just do it.
Okay.
And Jado, this when Nathan was talking about the thunder, right? How he kept the power. Isn't the capacitors, right? Is that what they're called? Are used for that?
That's exactly what capacitors do. Store power.
So most electronic device, so switch mode power supplies have capacitors. So a byproduct of having capacitors in a switch mode power supply is that they'll discharge slowly. So, have you ever heard the term, power something down, do a power reset, wait a minute, turn it back on? That's to discharge every single capacitor in your circuit. And switch mode power supplies do that, but it's not like having a UPS is twofold. If you have an extended power outage, you can still run a show, or you can protect your equipment because it's pure sine wave. It'll filter out all the harmonics. So you can have voltage spikes, voltage drops of up to 60 to 70%, 1,000 times a day. And if you have a passively cooled computer, it's extremely damaging to your circuitry over time. But so that's what I was getting at.
I totally get it. All of the components that are in the motherboard and the power supply, for that matter, are filtering caps, right? That by result of that garbage mains, you're saying it's going to have to work the filters in the power supply or in the motherboard harder. And I agree, it will. So, but does it make any difference? Now, I don't know if it does, because back when I was a salesman for, it's not computing, but it's similar, when it was electronics for audio, they used to have various different manufacturers of uninterrupted power supplies, and they'd flog them on the basis that you didn't get the crap in the mains into the power amp or into the preamp through its power supply, therefore keeping everything cleaner. Now, in principle, yes, that's true, but that's what the amp's doing, right? That's its job. That's what it's got to do. It's got to turn that mains, which is crap, into usable power that can power the speakers. My understanding of a PC is the same, that you can have crappy power supplies that don't filter mains well and therefore are nasty on the motherboard, and therefore the motherboard's got to work harder to filter. But if it's all good quality parts, surely that's its job to filter the mains, to make sure that you're getting the correct voltages to the correct parts by progressively filtering them till they, not filtering them, progressively stepping them until they are at the correct voltage for whatever device needs them. And then store that until it needs it and give it when it needs it at the correct voltage. So I get you. Over time, you're going to wear out caps if they're constantly having to, discharge and recharge because of garbage that they're having to filter, and that will, over time, wear them out. But I absolutely hate this computer, and when I feel that it's justified to replace it entirely from scratch, that is not change any more parts of it, because I've done that. I've replaced every component, and it still doesn't frigging work properly. So when I feel that nobody will remember that there was various GoFundMes for this stupid computer, I'll just do another one and buy a completely new machine, and at that point, then I'll consider buying an uninterrupted power supply and doing it the way I would want to do it. So the UPS would serve the function of, if there's a power cut, I would want to run the monitor and the computer minimum off that UPS so that the show can continue, and the router. So that, if there's a power cut, I can still continue the show. Then it has a useful purpose. If as a byproduct, it's also filtering nicely, keeping my new computer, not this one, living forever. I don't want this one to live forever. In a way, if it's set on fire tomorrow, I'd probably rejoice. So from that perspective, I don't want to prolong its life. But when it does come to replacing it, which won't be soon, it's cobbling along and it's had thousands spent on it, all crowdfunded. So it wouldn't be right to replace it tomorrow, as much as I'd love to. Because it still feels like a new computer to me. It's weird because it's a couple of years old now, but because it's had non-stop attention, it still feels like it's new. You know what I mean? It's bizarre, and it's got all new components in it. Everything in it's bang up to date.
So it sounds like you just want to euthanize your computer.
Yeah, no. I mean, so long as it functions, I'm happy. But it's just, in the back of my mind, I know it's not stable, because it isn't. So that means at any time it could crash. Now, I know what a truly broken, unstable computer was, because that's what it was when it arrived. Essentially, the cooler, the oversized cooler, the motherboard hung off the cooler. So the cooler's held in place, and the motherboard hangs off it. Unlike a normal computer, where the motherboard's fixed in place to the chassis, and then the cooler hangs off the motherboard. Well, it's the reverse of that. But that means that there's this giant plate that screws into the motherboard to suspend it. Well, on the original motherboard, there was a trace that was close enough to eke a gouge in with the plate of the case itself. So it just scraped its way through one of the memory traces. So from that point forward, once it was assembled, it was forever going to break. It was forever going to never be stable, no matter what I did, because it had a physical flaw in the motherboard as a result of the design of the case. Now, this motherboard doesn't have that problem. There's no traces anywhere near those holes that mount the motherboard to the chassis of the case by way of the heatsink that's part of the case. Well, that isn't a problem anymore, so I don't have that kind of instability. But even then, I still managed to cobble on daily. It was horrendous, but the show still goes on. So at the moment, the fact that I don't have anywhere, by comparison, yes, I don't have a fully stable computer, but by comparison, I don't have daily show crashes. And I was having to fight to keep the show, physically fight with the machine to keep it on air at one stage. It was just constantly crashing.
Okay, I understand what the problem is now. You don't love it.
As much as when I was suggesting that I would like to build a passive PC, and I'd even watched a video from Linus Tech Tips about this very PC, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think, I'll invest $1,000 in a chassis. That would just never have crossed my mind. But when someone comes along and says, at the height of the PC chip shortage, I'll invest in the chassis, which is horrendously expensive, and all of the components to go in it in a chip shortage. And then it'll just be delivered to you. It'll just be a new working computer. I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. 2 years later, it still doesn't work.
I think it's time to switch to Mac, Nathan.
It's nothing wrong with Windows. It's just, like I say, this.
What I said years ago, man.
Next computer will
Nathan,
be
is there a machine?
water cooled. That's if you want a quiet computer, You water cool it. That's what you do. Yeah? It's easy.
Yes.
Right? You don't do it in a case that's effectively one giant heatsink, and you can only strap the actual components to the outside edges of it. I mean, it's an absolutely ludicrous design. Nice idea, but it has caused me 2 years of headaches.
You know what they say about computers and air conditioners, don't you?
They all, when you open Windows, I think you said this yesterday, something about opening Windows. They don't work when you open Windows.
As soon as you open Windows, they stop working.
Right. Yeah, the next PC will just be a normal computer. The graphics card will just be over-spec'd, as in it'll have a bigger cooler on it than it needs. That's all you need to keep a graphics card silent, where it would not only require 2 fans. Buy one with a 3-fan cooler that's massive, then you can turn the fan profile right down, and you'll never hear it. Same with the CPU. You water cool it, because then there's something to hold on to the heat, rather than it just immediately boiling a couple of little wicks in heat pipes. Anyway, let's change the subject because Craig's arrived and the last thing he wants to hear is me moaning about computers. As I've been texting you on Skype. Hello, Craig.
Hello. It's working all right, though.
I think so. I think after 36 straight hours of pissing around with it, I think I figured out what the problem is. I told you already on Skype.
Yeah. Well, I just say NVIDIA drivers are notoriously bad.
If it wasn't for the fact that Windows did a complete reinstall of itself 2 days ago or 36 hours ago, and then that was, sorry, the other way around. I got a graphics card update, and then within 12 hours, it had a complete Windows reinstall. So when you start seeing failures, you go, well, it must be the Windows reinstall, right? So that's how I spent the first 12 hours. Pissing around with the CPU, thinking, oh, it must be something to do with them changing the scheduler for these stupid little E-cores. It must be that. No, it's not. It's the graphics card. I think they've just, after having the chips out there for a year, have gone, oh, we can eke out a bit more efficiency. What exactly like I want to do and had already. So it's just pushed it into instability, I think.
Yeah,
but the ideal, Craig, right, is, you're like, just leave it stock. Or if it was just left stock, when NVIDIA decide, oh, we can squeeze a bit more efficiency out of this. It's like what, like you'd do manually if you were undervolting it. Yeah, well, when they do that and you've undervolted it, it buggers things up. Had it just been stock, no problem, right? So your advice of just keep it stock, don't mess with it, is absolutely warranted. Now, I don't need to know this information. I shouldn't be privy to this information, but having a completely unreliable computer that effectively needs to have the same principles applied to it as overclocking it, even though it's not, it's to turn it down, but the principles are identical, right? So you go, if you're out there and you want to piss around with your computer overclocking it, just don't. I'm forced to do it to keep it cool in this stupid case, but you think, is it worth it for the guy that's doing it to get an extra 5% out of his machine? Is it worth it? No. Just leave it alone. And that'll be what I do with the next one. I'll just bung it in, turn it on, enable XMP, and nothing else.
Yeah. Oh, well. I mean, I wouldn't discourage anybody to have a play if they want to learn about stuff. But yeah, sometimes if you could at least press that reset button to go back to its normal factory settings, it's not so bad.
I can't do that. When I press the reset button, you know what happens when I press the reset button. It sets on fire, doesn't it?
It gets a little bit warm.
Yeah, it just immediately cooks itself. Everything boils instantly if I set it to stock. Just cooks itself instantly.
We'll get you on a liquid-cooled one eventually.
I'll get a liquid-cooled one when I can justify GoFundMeing another computer. But 2 years after this one's been put in place with almost every component, if not every component, with the exception of the power supply, having been changed, it's definitely not warranted or justified at this stage. So I'll cobble along moaning for now. But yeah, I want to build the next one water cooled. That's how you get silence, isn't it? You water cool it.
Go AMD. Yeah,
Just-
and go AMD.
I don't know about going
Just
AMD.
chuck a packet of frozen chips in it when you do a show.
Yeah, sounds great.
And you'll have chips at the end.
It'll definitely be broken then.
Oh well, it's working.
Yeah, it's working. It's not crashing, so the show will go on. But it's just, having to faff with it for endless hours to have it not be crashing is annoying, to say the least. But there we go. Such is life. Like, welcome to your world, I'm sure, is the next response, right?
No, I'm just in the middle of fixing some PlayStation controllers. So doing some soldering.
Are they really expensive or something?
It's an odd one when they get drift on the joysticks, and it's about, we charge £30 to change the joysticks, but they cost about £60 to buy them new. So it's a bit of a toss up, really.
That does make sense, yeah. Because I've got one that's got stick drift, and I thought, well, I've worn it out, I'll just replace it. But I think you're right; it's about 60 quid to replace it, which is a lot. But I got it as a birthday present, so you think, well, yeah. But I thought it was borderline. I thought they might be 30 or 40 quid, but if they're 60 quid, yeah, it is justified repairing it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they went up loads in price, like 60 to 70. I mean, it depends what colour you wanted, I suppose.
Yeah, I noticed that. When I replaced this one, it was the generation before the current one, and to get it in a custom colour, when it arrived, it seemed like that they'd sent an original one off to some other factory, and they'd stripped it and changed the parts and then put it back together again by hand. And it was exceptional. I was like, wow, this feels great. It feels like someone really put a lot of care and attention. The packaging was garbage. So I was like, this doesn't give off a good impression. But as soon as I held it, I was like, wow, this is great. And then I noticed that literally almost immediately after I got it, they changed it. And now they've changed it such that it's just these snap-on colour plates. And you're like, God, that looks awful. And they've upped the price for the Pro one to like 130 quid if you want a custom one. I'm like, that's the cost of a console. What's going on? That's nuts for a controller.
Yeah, eventually it'll be like the printers. You only buy a printer so they can sell you ink, and then they can sell you accessories and games.
Yeah, DLC and add-on garbage. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Anyway, my soldering iron's getting cold.
Yeah. And my heating on. I'm very pleased that I've got working electricity this year. All down to the supporters of the channel. Literally.
Do you have a fireplace?
No, I've got storage heaters.
Oh, yeah, they're awful, those things.
Yeah,
Never seem
storage
to
heaters are
work
good.
very well.
Mine are good. 2 of them are really modern.
Well, I used to live just down in the flats behind yours, the other side of the school.
Oh, yeah.
And we had storage heaters there. They were dire.
Well, the ones that were here when we moved in were awful, but they've come a long way. And now they're plugged into 2 main circuits, and if they ever need to top themselves up because the thermostat says that it's less than the temperature they're supposed to be maintaining, they'll just use the regular mains. So they can top themselves up in the day if it does get cold, and they haven't guessed correctly. But it's all algorithmically controlled now, so it's calculating how much temperature difference it was from the night before, and then saying, I need this much energy stored in the storage radiator to dump out 19 degrees worth of heat the following day. So with the exception of the very first time I set them up, they've been awesome. You just turn them on, set a temperature, and it maintains it. It's ace.
And like the old days of Economy 7.
Well, it is Economy 7.
That still exists.
Yeah, I've got it. I still have that tariff. There's Economy 7 and there's Economy 10. And most people only are aware of the Economy 7 one. But if you've got that tariff, you've got that tariff because you've got that circuit. I was explaining it to the first cowboy electrician and he just didn't get it. I'm like, there are 2 circuits into the flat. One is controlled by a timer and just comes on at night. And that powers the storage radiators and the electric water heater. He just didn't understand it. Hence he ended up wiring everything wrong and everything going pop and bang all the time. But yeah, it is. It's just an Economy 7 circuit. If there's 2 circuits into the mains, we get 2 bills. There's 2 meters, literally. 2 physical meters with 2 different readings.
I didn't realise there was 2 different meters. It just
Yeah, you get a day rate and a night rate.
I just thought it was measured per when it was used, but I suppose you can't tell that on a normal clock meter, can you?
No, they're physically separate. And they come in on separate, completely separate wires too. So you have to the heater, there's physically 2 separate main circuits running to it. Yeah, which made me furious because when the first guy came in and did some of the wiring, he wired the storage heaters into the day circuit. You're like, the day circuit costs 10 times as much or something ludicrous. So if you're charging up these stupidly expensive 2 kilowatt heaters during the day, it's going to financially cripple me in the space of about a week. And again, the guy just didn't get it, this cowboy.
Yeah, no, that could be bad. Could be bad.
Yeah, very.
Man, fellas, this computer talk is so exciting.
This isn't
But
computer
Yeah, I
talk.
was
about to
about to
start.
say something.
This is one step lower than computer talk. This is storage radiator talk.
Yeah, no, sorry.
The show's about to start, but
Move
what's on the
Move
plan
on.
today? Sorry, Craig.
No, Click,
sorry, bro.
you're
Go ahead.
okay. Nathan's the bad guy.
What have I done? Bush is asking what we're covering today. We've got Mark Sargent and Art Skull, or Dave McKeegan.
Welcome to the comedy gold.
Say again?
Dave McKeegan. I thought you don't like Dave Mc. Oh yeah. That's the somebody from Discord recommended that yesterday. I said I know you don't like Dave McKeegan, but I'm gonna share it anyway.
What do you mean I don't like Dave
What,
McKeegan? I don't like any of them. I mean, Dave McKeegan's no different to anybody else.
Right.
I've got no special dislike for Dave McKeegan.
Gotcha.
But at the end of each of these videos, me saying, I really don't like Toon, I really don't like Simon Dan, I really don't like Dave McKeegan. They're all the same.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. But another Discord member, M1 Bear, was really enthusiastic about the second video that I just posted. It's Mark Sargent and another fella called Alt Skull was on there. And I think first few minutes just gonna put the smile on your face, Brown, because when they introduced this dude and they told him, tell us about your whatever flat earth belief, he just literally laid that out on the sentence. Told them it's not a belief, told them it's measured flat, blah, blah, blah. So that might be a video worth the review.
This is our Flat Earth with special guest Mark Sargent and Alt Skull.
Yep,
Yeah?
that's the one.
Okay. Let's just sound check it before we start live. Hold on.
It's almost overnight. Better than Ozempic.
UK energy companies don't want you to know about this trick to heat up houses for practically zero cost.
Artist? Do you wanna go subreddit surfing? I wanna go subreddit surfing. Grab your phone, let's go subreddit surf, because sometimes we...
I wouldn't
Business we
call
are
it
in.
a show at this point. Well,
Why not?
What the hell are we watching? What is this?
Hello, everyone. Mic check. 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 Check.
It's a potato. To talking potato.
Because we just surf subreddits. That's all we do is we surf subreddits. We go on the internet and we look at another website and we talk about it.
Am I watching the right thing?
Yeah, you are. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know what that's all
Guess
about,
we'll
but
cover that then. We'll just cover it from there, yeah? Is that okay? I assume there's...
no, I actually think you should what I don't know if you skipped the where the first guest just started talking because hers like literally his introduction is epic. I didn't watch it past that.
I don't think he's even
So maybe
introduced
go-
me yet. I'm at the 2-minute mark and they're talking about being Redditors or
Oh,
whatever.
okay. Yep,
So
yep.
we're at 2 minutes 48. I don't think we've missed anything.
Sounds good.
Do you have a minute? Because I got a bone to pick. Whatever show you played yesterday, I couldn't believe my ears.
Okay. What? John and Brian arguing?
Yes, what the hell was that? And no, not them arguing, they always do. But the statements that I heard Brian making, like you'll never hear me saying that stupid crap you say, Earth measured flat, that's stupid. Or something to that effect. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was in Twilight Zone.
Oh, that was hilarious. So at one point, he was like, you're gonna make me have to leave this coffee shop if you keep arguing with me. I'll have to leave this coffee shop. And then at one point, he's like, I've had to leave the coffee shop. It's your fault, Nathan. It's your fault, John. I've had to leave this coffee shop. This appeal to him being... Oh, you have to listen to it. It was great. I was in pieces listening back to it yesterday.
I do not think that's a stupid statement, Earth measured flat. I think it's a fact.
Hello, mic check.
Hello.
You can hear me as well, right?
Yeah, we covered you yesterday, though. So...
Oh, which one?
Flat Earth Banjo did a re-release of you with a preamble on TikTok about pitch data.
Oh, okay. Wait, who was I versing again?
You weren't. You were cut together with all the
just-
different pilots that you discussed it with, and then Flat Earth Banjo took a load of one-on-one, if you like, interviews with pilots, literally in the planes, and strapped that on the end.
Yeah.
And then there was a load of other ancillary stuff that we didn't watch that seemed unrelated after that. But you were right at the beginning. Well, the first frame of the video is the pitch data.
Yep. I've been using that more and more. I used it on Glebby McClure face today. I got Glebby to say that planes moonwalk backwards when flying east today.
It's a Coriolis argument, but yeah, cool.
I got it recorded.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello.
Bonjour.
Good morning. Right, we're going to do quick fire housekeeping because we've been a bit lax in that regard. We do a couple here and there, but I want to get through all of them quick fire. So let's hear some answers. Hopefully they're good. If we do have to expand into a question, that's fine also. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
No.
Black Swan.
Was that Duncan?
Black Swan.
Right, if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per the distance to horizon in the Earth curve mathematics. Distance to horizon in reality, Black Swan image, is beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959 at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in their maths. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve, and the Earth is not a sphere. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
I would require an observation of Earth-based Coriolis effects, and we don't have that.
No, we don't. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
We need an observed phenomenon, and we don't have that either.
You're a bit muffled, Duncan. Are you underwater? I think I heard you. You need an observed phenomena for gravity, and there isn't one, I think is what you said. It was just very muffled. I don't know if you want to drop and rejoin, or there's something wrong with your mic, or you're just not talking into it. You're talking into a pillow. Anyway, Yes, there is no observed phenomena for gravity. Meanwhile, is there any scientific evidence from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
In relation to what, sorry?
Any globe evidence whatsoever? Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
I believe it's all assumed. No, not really.
That would be a no. Mic check.
Much better. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
There's no way to measure that distance.
Well, I certainly calculate it and give off a claimed distance. Any evidence of the R value needed to claim the distance to the sun?
Nope.
For the R value, we'll need the horizon to be Earth curve, but that's not Earth curve, so we don't have an R value either.
Well, no, you can. You can derive it from a flat surface level. Al-Biruni derives radial value after inferring that the surface he measures flat has curved after derivation.
Yeah. So can I add to that, right? If Al-Biruni measured Earth on the Black Swan observation, then that would make the radius value of Earth over 200,000, right?
Not really, because the process of Al-Biruni's dip is to calculate it based on the height that you've measured from surface level, go up it, and then calculate the dip after you've ascended the height that you calculated. So in his case, he's figuring out how high the mountain is, then going up it, and then calculating the dip from the surface level. That's a flat level that he's calculating dip to at altitude. So you need the height of I parallel with eye level, surface level, and the difference between the two. Once you've got that, you can infer that that dip is based on the surface curving away from you. But at all calculable points, you're calculating that with a surface level and eye level parallel with it. It's the same process in Earth curve maths, whereas the Black Swan is just a straight up observation, which you can take Earth curve inference of a distance to horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height feet. But that's very specific maths to the Black Swan. It's debunking their claimed geometry, whereas Al-Biruni's claiming to extrapolate out the geometry from flat Earth measurements. So they're two very different things in that regard.
Oh, really? Okay. I was under the impression that if Al-Biruni was, say, at the location of the Black Swan, and he did what he did to measure the radius value, then that's what would happen. Like the radius value would be 200,000.
You just don't need the addition of Al-Biruni. It's just superfluous to this statement. So you're saying that if you calculate the distance to horizon and extrapolate a radial value based on that distance, then the calculated radial value would be beyond the heliocentric orbital value of the moon in terms of the size of Earth. Yes, it would be. Something like 250,000 mile radial value with the Black Swan as the base of the calculation.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And the fact that we've got like multiple observations of the Black Swan, it's not like just one off.
All swans are black.
Yeah.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
100% no.
The very notion is
wait,
absurd.
wait. I know. The Earth itself. No, I'm just kidding.
You can't beg the question of a sky vacuum by just pointing at the sky and saying, I believe it's a vacuum and we do have gas pressure, therefore gas pressure isn't filling a vacuum. Straight up begging the question.
Yeah, that's what the globers do all the time.
On Duncan.
The very notion is absurd.
Yeah, ergo outer space is fake. The sky is not a vacuum. Any evidence of a self...
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just saying, Nathan, if it was possible, you would be able to demonstrate it.
Well, the description of how gas behaves is described in a law of nature. So you're saying if it was possible, you'd just show it, but by showing it, you'd violate that law of nature.
Yeah, which is interesting, right?
Well, it's not interesting. It's just impossible. To show gas not filling space, not following entropic dispersion, is a violation of natural law. One deck saying, if it was the case that we could have a sky vacuum, you'd just show it to be the case. Well, yeah, but then we wouldn't have a law of nature to describe gas dispersion, would we? It would be violating it.
Yep. Also, they can't even demonstrate a vacuum without containment.
Yeah, that's correct also. You can't have a vacuum without a container either.
Yeah, this is what I always ask them. Demonstrate for me a vacuum without containment. And they're like, oh, well, I can't do that. I go, well, is the vacuum of space contained then? No. Well, it can't exist.
Okay. I'm sure we've missed a question. What's the question? Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Totally not.
Bottom line of the angle is along the surface, and that's a straight line. So no.
Yeah, the surface is measured flat.
Yeah.
Nathan, on this point, right? You know the way the Globers do it, they depict themselves in hell, as you say. Is that the only way they can extrapolate the what do you call it? The drop for every 69 miles, it drops 1 degree, but they have to depict themselves from hell. Is that right?
No, when you describe it that way, you're describing the Earth as a protractor that's turning, aren't you? Your angle in hell is the respective angle to whatever star you're looking at. But if you're describing moving along a latitude that's on a globe, then you're describing the turning of the globe itself as a protractor. With you in hell, if you're going to claim that that's a measurement, which it isn't. It's on screen now by coincidence.
Yeah, okay. Because that's what I'm asking, because I had this debate with Globby too. I'm like, and also Jorge Physics again. I go, why are you depicting yourself from hell or the center of the Earth if you're talking about the surface? Because I'm like, I made that argument. I go, well, if the curvature drop on a globe is exponential, then Polaris technically should drop exponentially as you move.
You've got way too much empathy. Me, in that scenario, we're not in hell! That's my attitude. You can ask them, why would you be placing us in... You can do that. Too much empathy.
Okay.
Are we in hell?
They always have...
We're not, no. So that's the end of that then.
Have to put themselves on horizon.
Sorry, one day, go ahead.
They need the horizontal baseline. Any way they can get that, they will.
Not only that, one day, to describe curvature, horizontal plane of reference is required. The rate, right, at which it's turning. Yeah.
Yeah, you need the horizontal to describe the rate of the drop from.
That's right.
Yeah, you'll need a flat Earth for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've got to learn this argument more, I think.
Which argument? The from hell bit?
No, like, because I got confused. Like, Globby was arguing with me about it. And he was basically saying, oh, I don't believe you. Like, show me how it works. Show me why Polaris dips 1 degree per 69 miles. I'm basically saying, well, the way he showed it, you're showing yourself moving over a curved surface, whereas I'm saying our vision is curved, causing that effect, and we're on a flat land.
Why are you explaining it? How does this have any bearing on the debate? You've been Jedi mind tricked. So it's like saying...
I know. This is what it does.
Who cares why it does it? What we measure it with is all that is important. So when they say, well, I say it's because we're going over a curve, I couldn't give a crap. Not how we do it, is it? You being asked why, for example, Polaris recedes towards the horizon. You're asking me to explain why it does that. Who gives a toss? Am I the arbiter of why the stars recede to the horizon as you back away from them? No. It's a useful, practically applied fact. So they do recede by a 1 degree measured angle off a flat Earth towards the horizon, and we practically apply that principle. Why are you asking me why it does that? I couldn't give a crap. why it does it.
Yeah.
It does it. And we measure it, doing it. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I tried to say that to him as well. Like, I'm like, I've really made that point. I'm like, well, stars just drop and we measure angles to it with just straight lines, right? And I made the point where we see in a dome of vision, which curves visual space, just like streetlights and trees in the distance
No, we don't.
converge.
That's wrong.
Down.
No, we do not. We don't see in a dome of vision. You can represent what we measure with respect to the parallel plane with the parallel sky with a receding angle through a protractor and describe that graphical representation as a dome of perspective. That is not what the world does. That is your description of your perception presented in an orthographic representation. That is not how we see the world. Just because a star gets closer to the horizon doesn't mean it's curving towards the ground through a dome of your vision. What dome of your vision? You're just seeing stuff at varying distances with limitations based on the aperture of your eye. That's it. To say you've got a dome of vision is a way of verbalizing that which you experience. It doesn't make it physically literal. There is no dome of your vision.
Okay.
And meanwhile, you've just measured an elevation angle from sea level, and they want to start talking about vision. Well, you're measuring an angle from sea level, which requires a horizontal plane, which is flat Earth proof. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
okay,
stuff,
I didn't know that with
to hand wave it in the way I am has taken me to learn all of the perspective nonsense. Yeah, and I keep crediting him for it because it's solely down to him, basically. But life is short. Took me by the hand and took me through his 12 months of research and endless documentation with presentations and visual diagrams to explain exactly what he was telling us and how it worked. So that at the end of it, I can go, I don't need any of this, do I? Yeah? These descriptions describe something that I don't need to prove Earth's flat. Every part of this description is flat. That's a fact. But that's not proving the surface of the Earth is flat. Why am I learning it? Because they claim the horizon's a physical hill getting in the way of stuff. It's their positive claim that failed with the black swan. That's it. Why does the horizon... I don't care. Well, you need to tell me... No, I don't. You say it's Earth curve, it isn't. That's it. What's that? You want to know what the horizon is? Why? Oh, because we used to think it was Earth curve back when we were brainwashed. Okay, so what? Well, what about the sky? We need to know why it does what it does. Why? Well, because we used to think it was a vacuum that men travel through. Okay, so because you were told that it was something it isn't, you now desperately need to know what it is. Well, that's understandable, but it's not on me to do it for you. Go and find out what the horizon is. It just isn't any use to us in this debate anymore. As a flat earther, I can, if I choose to, explain what the horizon is with perspective. I just don't need to. It's not my job. I don't care. You globe-believing numpties thought it was a hill getting in the way. It isn't. Beyond that, the comprehension of what forms it, the angular resolution limit, if you want to succinctly describe it to someone else, doesn't really serve you anything as a flat earther, does it? And then what? Okay, it's an optical resolution point that's not resolvable by your limitations of the aperture of your eye. And then what? And Earth is flat? No, you can describe that and calculate it and visually represent it in the same way they do orthographically with Earth curve, but accurately using flat Earth descriptions, as perspective does. And then what? Proving Earth's flat? It does not. It can, in an argument that goes round in circles, be used as a positive claim that a flat earther says the perspective forms the horizon, and a globe earther says it's the hill that gets in the way called Earth curve. Yeah, then you're into a false dichotomy. And as I've just pointed out, what does it serve you, the flat earther, to argue the toss about what the horizon is when you don't have a positive claim attached to it? Meanwhile, we do measure Earth flat by utilising the horizon and its geometric principles. The axioms that are utilised are set in stone and are absolutely, without question, not debatable. So, like I say, You can get into this wrangle dangle. I've had to learn it to realise why I don't need it.
So you're saying we shouldn't make a claim on what the horizon is?
Do you have a claim where horizon proves Earth is flat?
The fact that it's an optical location, not geometric curvature, proves it's flat, right?
The fact that it's not geometric curvature can have a logical inference strapped onto the end of it. That doesn't involve describing perspective, though, does it? If it's not a hill getting in the way, and the calculations of the hill require a flat surface to derive them, then you're measuring a flat surface. Where did perspective come into that?
Well, can you say that last part again?
If I'm measuring the surface to claim it's a sphere, and the surface I am measuring is flat, then I can only take the measurement of the surface to be what that is, a measurement of the surface, to later infer by calculation that the surface is actually curved when you just measured it flat. That's what Earth curve is when claimed to be the horizon, debunked by the Black Swan in 2020. By undoing the principles and even using their own calculations that has a flat plane of reference utilised as and labelled surface level, I can use measurements of the Earth to debunk the claim that the horizon's a hill. I'm asking you, based on that, at what point did I mention perspective?
Yeah, you didn't, right?
Right, so
You just said-
given that you want to, where is that useful? And then what, if you detail it perfectly?
When is it useful to...
You tell me. I've already said it isn't. Learning it meant that I learned what Earth curve isn't, and learning how it's formed cemented the notion of what actually causes it. But finding out what actually caused the horizon didn't prove to me that Earth was flat. It showed that calculations of perspective would utilise flat planes of reference, and that's how it's detailed. Very useful. If I need perspective to draw something or calculate something in the distance. Using a flat plane is secondary to the claim that the horizon itself is a physical hill, and debunking the physical hill may also involve flat plane measurements that just don't reference perspective in any way, shape or form. It's only when you say, well, what is the horizon, that you start explaining it to somebody else about optical resolution, angles off the flat surface will be described to get you those limitations. But I don't see it as something that you need, because you haven't necessarily got a positive claim about the horizon. What is anybody asking you? What is the horizon? Beyond the point that they know already that it's Earth curve in their mind, is anybody asking?
In my little world on TikTok, yeah. Usually when a glober asks me, though, I basically say it's just the optical location where the sky appears to meet the Earth's surface. If
That's the definition of a horizon. Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Define what it is. But are you making a positive claim about it in this scenario?
Well, I'm saying it's flat.
Are you using the horizon specifically to say that? And if so, how are you doing that?
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm more saying it's not Earth curve, therefore it's flat. That's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's a logical inference that you can strap on after your claim if you're debunking Earth curve. But are you debunking it by offering an alternative and suggesting that you can explain what the horizon is with perspective? Because if you are, you're accepting what is effectively a burden of proof reversal fallacy. I say the horizon's Earth curve. What say you? Oh, I say it's perspective. Excellent. Now we've got a false dichotomy. Now, did you have a positive claim to begin with that says perspective proves Earth is flat? If so, then fine, no worries. If you say perspective proves Earth's flat, I mean, don't get me wrong, I could go around the Reekin and get there eventually, but I wouldn't have any specific Earth measurements to strap along with it to prove it. I'd just be demonstrating how perspective functions as an isolated, standalone item that I can reference and detail the angles with respect to a plane when I describe perspective. But that's not Earth measurement, is it? Earth curve maths has got Earth measurements. They're measuring the height above surface level, parallel eye levels assumed with the respect to surface level to make the calculation to derive a point below surface level that you've just measured. There's a lot of flat Earth in their measurements when they claim it's a sphere edge. It isn't, and I can debunk it, but I just don't need perspective to do it. I think it just sets you up for a false dichotomy, where you're explaining that the horizon is Earth curve, they're explaining that the horizon's perspective. Okay, so if you're explaining that it's Earth curve, that's your positive claim that you need to make your belief in a ball come true. So you need to back it, and I don't need to do a damn thing except pick it apart based on what you claim. Not explain after the fact what it actually is once it fails to be Earth curve. It's their positive claim. Let them make the claim.
Yeah. So basically, that every time they claim it's Earth curve, I throw up the black swan and be like, well, no, look, right?
You know, we get a red sky in the morning sometimes.
Say again, though, what?
You know, we get a red sky sometimes in the morning.
Yeah.
If I say that red sky is caused by the flight of the demons that comes in the morning, and they're all scared, and the light bounces off their red wings and creates that, and you say, garbage, that's not correct, prove it, and I fail, and then everyone in unison turns to you, who's told me it's garbage, and says, well, what does cause it then? Bearing in mind, I'm only saying it because I want to prove the existence of demons. You didn't have a claim in any regard whatsoever with respect to why we've got a red sky. But suddenly you have to tell me how that's done. Why? Oh, well, because I have got a positive claim about demons and their redness. And when it fails on its arse, you need to explain explicitly what causes the red sky at night or in the morning.
Yeah,
See where I'm going?
This is the problem I have sometimes because I get into this point where it's like debating the globe is. It's like, well, if you can't explain how the universe works, it's a globe.
You just say, okay, well, you just accept that. Go in peace. Have fun, Fundy. If you think that me not explaining something validates your religious belief in a globe, then fine, go in peace. That's the problem. A lot of us here, not by stereotype, just I know by personal experience, are super concerned with how many conversions you get. Yeah? How many people have you brought to the subject of flat Earth? We're not Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah? I am not a flat Earth evangelist. I'm not out knocking on people's doors. I don't have a conversion rate. So when you've got this empathy with the opponent, well, they tell you've got to explain it to them, and if you don't, something will be consequential to you. It sounds like a you problem, doesn't it, Angels? Not you, but them. Sounds like a them problem.
Yeah.
Right, recognise that. You've got too much empathy. Well, if you can't explain it, then what? If I can't explain it, your failed argument suddenly comes true again. In your deluded mind, it does, because you need to sleep tonight.
Yeah, it's like when you debunk gravity or, or something, or yeah. So, okay, it's like when I keep debunking the lunar eclipse. It's like, oh, what causes it? Well, I don't know. And it's like, oh, well, it's the Earth's shadow again.
Yeah, the moment you don't give an explanation, they reassert that it's the orbital motion of occultation causing shadows. No.
Yeah.
The Keplerian orbital motion comes from R-based derivatives measured off a flat Earth. Absolutely not. Your mathematics isn't going to turn the world spherical with us in hell measuring angles with orbital motion. We're not in hell to calculate Keplerian orbital motion, as described on screen, with a plane of reference. That's not how Earth is measured. So, no. What's that? How do I explain it? I couldn't give a toss. Oh, well, then it's definitely orbital motion derived from flat plane measurements. If you like, go in peace, Fundy Zealot.
Yeah,
Just saying, like, even if they do start using the word horizon, they shouldn't be using that word if they're trying to describe curvature, because the horizon's got nothing to do with curvature whatsoever.
Can you explain that one, Dick? Because I wanted to use this on someone. I didn't really understand what you're saying.
Well, has the horizon got anything to do with Earth curvature?
Well, no.
Well, no,
Because the
it's
horizon's
not,
always horizontal and flat, right? And it's always...
Well, even the definition of it doesn't describe it as Earth curvature. It's just an apparent location, and it references surface level and the surface of the sea, where the sky appears to meet the surface of the Earth. So it's referencing Earth. It's horizontal. It's got nothing to do with curvature whatsoever. The only thing we use it for in celestial navigation is to establish horizontal, which again has got nothing to do with curvature. We're talking about horizon horizontals. Not mentioning any curvature yet, are we, when we're trying to explain this globe?
No. It's like you said one day, right? The globers use all these words like sea level, eye level, horizon, but they're describing a globe.
Well, they're not
No, they're
describing
describing a flat plane when they use those words.
I mean, they're trying to describe a globe, but they're using all the flat Earth terminology.
They're actually that's what they're doing. They're telling you how flat Earth is measured.
Yeah, that's correct. The more time elapses, the more we realise that every single thing that they utilise in terms of Earth measurements, later calculated into sphericity as per the diagram on screen, ultimately has its genesis in flat Earth.
Yeah, see, Nathan, just one more time. You know, with that graphic that was just up on the live, this is where I got the dome of vision from. So you're saying that's incorrect?
We're looking at ourselves from a third party, from a third, what's the word? Third person point of view. We're looking back on Earth in that diagram. In this diagram also, we're looking at an orthographic representation of a person standing inside a protractor coloured in like a globe, with the angle to the star and along the surface. In this case, along the equatorial plane. Okay, so you aren't being represented as how you see things, because you can see your own position. Now, admittedly, in this diagram, your own position's in hell, but it's representing an angle measurement of the surface to the star. But the dome that's wrapped around your position, in this instance, globe-shaped dome, isn't actually representative of what the stars are doing. All the stars, in terms of how we have measured them, are parallel with the ground. Now that means that as the angular limitation to the star kicks in at the horizon, it would appear that it is receded over a curve towards the horizon. Now you could also draw it as a straight linear line towards the horizon as a straight slope, if you will. But either way, what you have is your representation of your perspective view of a star getting further away from you. It's moving over more and more distant lands in terms of its GP position that we track and use in the almanac. Well, as that does that, it's not receding towards the ground. It doesn't touch the ground at its GP position, does it? So how can you...
No, it appears to do that. Yeah.
Right, so you don't have a dome of vision.
Okay, so you said the star. You just said the stars are parallel to the grounds.
Yes,
is that right?
That's correct.
So you're okay. Wait. Well, so if the stars are parallel to the ground, so I know being a flat earther now that they're
not if they are. Not if. The only reason celestial navigation functions, before you start asking me why it does this, I'm not going to give you an answer because I don't know. That's the only reason this functions. As you raise in elevation, your angle remains the same. It is always, without exception, parallel with the ground. At all altitudes, I might add.
Hang on, say that again. If you raise an
altitude... all altitudes, the angle that you measure with respect to the surface that will be parallel with it if you are at altitude is the same at all elevations. Ergo, it can only function because it is parallel with the ground and remains so at all elevations.
Okay, this is
that's weird because Angel. That's weird because on Earth, if we measured the angle to a lighthouse, if we raise an elevation, that angle would change. But that doesn't change for stars. That's why the stars are weird.
Well, they're not weird. They just remain parallel based on measurements with respect to the surface, which is also parallel with any plane of reference you draw at any point. So if you go up 5 feet and level a parallel surface out by way of using a bubble sextant, and then you go up 50,000 feet and do the same thing, the angle measurement to the star is the same. Ergo, it can only function with practical use for GP positioning if you're going to use angle measurement, because it is parallel with the ground at all altitudes.
Wait, so hang on. Okay, wait. So in the south, it's the same thing, right? The stars are still parallel to the ground?
Yeah, navigation functions no different in the south. There's a lot of distortions on the maps, far more than in the north, but other than that, the principle remains the same. Elevation angles to the stars that remain the same at all altitudes, yes.
But the stars compared to the north and the south are equal elevations, you reckon? The stars?
I don't know their altitude. Their actual altitude would elude us, because as you raise in altitude, the angle does not change. Like it was just explained by Duncan, if you're going to calculate the height, then you need it to be a fixed position. The angle should reduce as you raise in altitude, but for the stars that is not the case. They remain parallel and remain the same angle measurement at all altitudes.
Okay, so is the sky flat?
As far as we measure it, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Flat firmament theory.
Not flat dome theory. That's how it's practically measured. No. That's how it is measured. Principles of deriving the distance. Yeah? Minus from 90 times by 60. That's giving you a co-altitude distance along the ground. Vice versa, you could look at it as an angle that gives you the distance along the sky. But you're not navigating the sky, and we're not trying to find sky distances between stars. We're trying to find GP positions. So there's no practical use or necessity to establish the height of the stars. And I'll say it one more time. Furthermore, as you raise in elevation, the angle does not change.
And there's no explanation for it. We don't know why that happens.
Hey,
it just does.
But are you saying it should? Yeah, sorry. Are you saying it should change, right? But it doesn't for the stars.
No, thank God it doesn't, because now we can use them for navigation. The fact that they remain parallel with the ground means that their GP point can be established at all altitudes with the same process of angle measurement. So thank God they do that, because we navigate with them. We've expanded the known world with them because they do that. So when it's like, well, they should change in angle as we raise, well, thank God they don't.
Oh, okay.
Like, if you were going to compare that to anything else in reality, right? Like, the angles change as you raise an elevation, but the stars, they don't.
Well, wait, say that again, the last part.
Everything like that we know that we measure with angles, as you raise an elevation, the angle changes because you're raising an elevation. But the stars is the one exception that doesn't do that.
What? This is what? Okay. Is this why we see only the apparent locations of the stars? Is that correct?
I don't know what you mean by apparent location. We know where they are above a given time. That is to say, at 6 o'clock this evening, there will be a star directly above my head. Now, 15 minutes later, it won't be, but at that given time, I am at that star's GP. Now, if you're at sea measuring that star, the point on the map below that star at that time when you measured that angle is where I am standing, because I am at its GP. Now, that angle that this guy on the boat measures to the star above my position out in the ocean is the same angle that the guy above him in a hot air balloon measures. He gets the same angle. Yeah, which means that their angle doesn't change as you go up in height.
Oh, this is trippy. Okay.
Well, it's not just trippy, it's the basis of our navigation system.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, wow.
Right, because we have a parallel plane with the sky, we can make these calculations and extrapolate out distance to GP. Minus from 90 times by 60, and the angle doesn't change at any height. Very useful for navigating. But for the fact that it doesn't change, we wouldn't have expanded the known territories and found our way home again.
Yeah. It's almost like the creator made it like that.
It's almost like they were made by God to help us find our way around. Yes.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to blow your mind once you got it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is crazy now. This is,
yeah,
for me,
the hand of God has laid out a system that we use to find our way around. And it's flat.
This is crazy because I also know that, like when you see these balloon footages, like as in flat Earth footage, the stars turn off at a certain altitude. You don't see them anymore.
Not necessarily true. I've been in flights that you can see stars from.
Really?
Patricia Steer also had a discussion with me about this. She's seen the same. So, it depends.
Is that from a plane?
Yeah, I did loads of flying all over the place, and so did Patricia Steer when I was telling her about this.
I'm talking about like upwards of 100,000 feet turns off.
Yeah, but I'm saying if it varies, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't at even lower altitudes. Surely it would be the same at higher altitudes. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Okay.
There may be a
Doesn't
limitation.
dispute the fact
I mean, I don't know. It's the sincere answer. I don't know why you'd be up at 100,000 feet trying to get your sextant out. I think you've got other things to worry about.
No, I just noticed like in all the footages that you see, like, all the amateur footage that they send up balloons, or like you see, it looks like the ISS footage just flat, but there's no stars. Like it's like they're not there.
Aren't they sending these up in the daytime?
Well, yeah, yes.
Right, so you get a black. Yeah. So what you're saying is you go above the blue and the footage shows black, and you're equivocating that with night. Well, no. They're in the day. Just because it's black above a certain level.
I think I have seen ones from the nighttime though. But
I've not. Okay, well, have they got stars?
No, I don't think I've ever seen ones that have stars. That's what I'm saying.
Sorry to interrupt, gentlemen, but I do know, for example, the Lockheed Blackbird that flies at about 60 to 80,000 feet uses celestial navigation as a backup system. So it has a vertical port that a sextant-like device points directly upwards to the stars and measures angles.
Hang on. They're not going to be doing that at their maximum ceiling, though, are they? They're going to be dropping to do that, I would imagine. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, but they're still going to be using the stars to navigate.
Yeah, but it doesn't address this, though, does it? It doesn't address whether or not we can see them at 80,000+ feet, because we don't know.
No, we don't know, but we do have technology that does use this at certain altitudes, like a ceiling, like you said.
Yeah, they all do. They've all got it as a backup, haven't they? If you get lost, having a sextant and a map and an almanac is your ticket home if you're lost. So it makes sense that they've got it as a backup. Now, obviously, it's just that. It's a backup. It's redundant because they've got GPS using a flat Mercator projection.
But just to be clear, you guys said normally angles would change when you raise an elevation, but the only known thing that doesn't do it is the stars, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you're looking at a tree in the distance and you happen to be on a hot air balloon, on the ground, you're looking up at the tree towards the top of the tree. Then as you rise so it's level with you, you've got no angle, higher or lower, you're level with it. And then as you rise above it, you've then got a depression angle as you go above it.
Wow.
Right, well, the stars don't ever do that. You get an angle from the ground in your hot air balloon to the star, and let's pretend for a second that you could instantaneously acquire 10,000 feet altitude. Because the problem is that in that time, if you're measuring the stars, they're going to have moved. But hypothetically, you've got a scenario where you're on the ground in the hot air balloon. Let's just have two. There's one waiting to go, and one that happens to be directly above it. They've both got sextants. They're both measuring the same angle to that star.
The only way
That's
the angles
insane.
change is if you move along the surface away or closer. And stars move themselves as well. So
Yeah, that's insane. It's like they move up. It's like they're made individually for us, right? And they move as you move, right? It's weird.
And it is amazing, and we don't know anything about it, do we? We don't know why it does it. We don't know what they are. And sometimes the balls will try and push you and start talking about this once you've explained that you're obtaining an elevation angle from, say, sea level, a horizontal plane. And they want to talk about the heights of the stars then, and why is this and why is that. We don't know. All we're doing is getting GP across the surface of Earth to find out where we are, to navigate, proving
But
that Earth
that
is
is
flat.
what they are. So we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. If I say tree, and you go, oh, I know what a tree is, and then I ask you, what do we do with trees? What do they do? You'd list off a list of things that the tree does, or that we use the tree for. If I then do the same with stars, and go, what are they? You go, well, they're the twinkling lights that we use to navigate with. You go, well, that's what they are then, aren't they?
Yeah, that's all we can say about them. Yeah, we're using them to pinpoint our positions on Earth.
Yeah.
Via elevation angles from sea level.
What are they? Well, they're useful for navigating, is what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no
Exactly.
further explanation needed. Oh, well, why do they do that? Why does a tree do what it does? Explain tree. You know, like, well, it gives us wood and it produces oxygen. No. Why does it do those things? Like, well, this seems kind of superfluous to necessity. I don't need to explain why it does that. It just does that.
Yeah, I think when they ask that, we should say, you should probably ask the creator.
No, it's not your burden. That's what I'm saying. This whole discussion is a nice segue back to the beginning. You giving them the satisfaction of your explanation that the creator made it that way. No. That's not the right tact. Why am I being asked this? Why, when someone says to you, why does the tree do what it does? Do you look at them with a slight slant in your head, a slight wonky eye, and go, why in unholy hell are you asking me this? Or do you go, oh, you better go and ask your creator? You look at the person sideways and go, why are you asking this? Excuse me, why does tree do tree? It just does. Do I need to explain this? Why do stars do stars? They just do. What do we use them for? We use them for navigating. Well, why are they there? Why is the tree there?
now that you understand this, you'll probably start talking about it. You'll get a lot of responses about heights of stars, like we were saying earlier. A simple question when they start asking you what the heights of stars are is just ask them back, are you saying you can measure the heights of stars or you can't measure the heights of stars? I'm not sure what you're saying. So make them clarify the claim and then just go from there.
Oh, you're gonna flip the burden onto me, are you? You want me to give you the height when we don't practically apply it in any way? Oh, were you under the misapprehension that you could acquire the height? Oh, I wasn't claiming. Oh, you go ahead, be my guest. Give me the height, as you're suggesting it's acquirable. No, I'm suggesting you need to be giving it me, flat earther. Oh, I didn't make any claim about that. It's not practically applied or useful anyway, but you seem to be alluding to the idea that you can. So go right ahead and see where you get. Right, Duncan?
Yes, just ask them what are the heights of some of these stars then, and then watch them flounder.
do, yeah.
They'll say, "Well, we can't
'Cause this is-
measure the heights of the
this-
stars." I'm like, "Oh, then why'd you say we can't?" And then it's funny.
Because this is what happened with my debate with Globy today. He goes, "Well, if you do triangulation, you can get the angle to Polaris." And I go, "Well, what if Polaris? How do you know the size of it? I didn't know this. I wish I knew this today."
We're talking about ground positions. We're not interested in the distance to the stars. That's not celestial navigation.
Yes,
No
where in
concern.
which step of celestial navigation does it say to measure the heights of stars? Nowhere.
It doesn't.
Yeah, well, and they all assume those distances anyway. I don't know.
No, they don't assume the distances. They derive the distances with Keplerian orbital motion and Huygens, quote, ingenious assumption that Venus has the same spherical radial value as Earth's derived radial value, which we discussed earlier. That's how you extrapolate their distances. Number one, we're not in a Hell-based orbital motion with angles represented from the centre of a sphere derived from the acquired angles off the flat surface, aka Keplerian orbital motion. And we are certainly not in that model reified by Huygens to make an assumption that the sphere derived from flat plane measurements is extrapolate-outable, if that's even a word, onto Venus in that orbital motion with occultation and eclipses, as we were discussing it earlier. It's all garbage. The principle behind the measurements in those maths is flat Earth angles to the stars. They can't violate the base principle measurement to suggest that Venus actually is a physical item in orbit around us if we're in hell, transposing angles that we measured from the surface that's flat. It's all nonsense.
A
Yeah,
breakdown
well,
that helped
is
me
there a-
understand. A breakdown that helped me understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, is first you measure Earth flat, then you calculate that into a globe, then you assume Venus is a globe of the same size, and then you can do scaling and measurements from there.
You've got the scaling in the wrong place. After you've calculated Earth to be a spherical ball based on flat circles that you measure like on screen with angles to the stars, you can then infer orbital motion. That's Keplerian orbital motion. That's where the scaling comes in Kepler. He just can't ascribe a value to anything. So you can slide the scale any way you like. You just need someone to put a number in somewhere to actually define the distances. So where you put that at the end, it comes before Huygens. So first flat plane measurements, then ball, then Keplerian orbital motion, then Huygens' assumption of sphericity for Venus being the same as the flat Earth measured sphericity for Earth. Make sense?
Perfect. Thank you.
Just got to get Kepler in there.
Could I ask, is there a place where I could go, like a source that says this that you're saying, the phenomena with the stars not changing angle?
There is a source.
Is that admitted by them?
From a wise
Celestial
old
navigation.
lion. You must travel through the wardrobe to the source of the information, angels.
Because that's mind-boggling to me. That's interesting. Because I'll be honest, that's like when I don't know if you remember when I showed you that picture of the moon I took, and then it had the skydivers next to it, and it's like, well, if we are the skydivers, the moon is not going to be sitting next to them that huge, right? So it's just super interesting. It's like actually the celestial bodies move away as you move. Like, it's crazy.
I don't really know what you're asking.
Oh, okay, hang on.
Hey, Tenth.
How you doing?
How are you doing?
Hello, Ted.
I'm gonna catch an airplane in a little bit, but I was listening to the show. Let me see if I can get this off speaker. Or is my sound all right?
You sound fine.
Okay. I was listening to the show, but yeah, don't have much time. But let me kind of comment, if I may. One deck said to establish horizontal at sea. Well, that's an obvious. That's why they use the horizon. but it's not to establish horizontal. The sextant is sighting the star, and you rock the sextant to establish vertical of the star against the horizontal, because there is no landmarks at sea, just water. So obviously sea is level, that creates the horizontal. And now you pick your star, one of the 63 navigational stars. You rock your sextant until the bottom of it is kissing the horizon, barely. You don't want to go below the water line. And you say mark. So you have your perpendicular. And I'd like to see a baller try to explain perpendicular with a curved baseline. So that's the purpose, is the 90-degree position, the GP of the star, which creates the right angle triangle with the observer, which also is a flat baseline, because a right angle triangle requires a flat baseline. So everything about the sextant, everything about the horizon, everything about rocking it until you get a perpendicular negates anything to do with a curved surface or a globe, especially when everything in the almanac is already configured to the equatorial plane with a projected extension all the way to the imaginary celestial sphere, with the galactic plane, which is one big flat Earth meeting flat so-called space all the way to the stars. So nothing about celestial navigation uses a curved surface. Secondly, the SR-71 Blackbird has a star tracker, as well as a inertial navigation system. The star tracker, and Adam Meakin sent this to me, and he and Brian have all my research on it. After he sent it to me, I did research on it. Is set at ground position as they roll out the Blackbird half an hour before it takes off. So the gyro, using a horizontal baseline, is set. Now, it's pre-programmed with PAPE, P-A-P-E, back in those days. The whole flight is pre-programmed. They use all the constellations, and it's already inputted on the tape. The SR-71 goes Mach 3, has a special blue filter that during the daytime, it actually can spot the stars through the sky when it's lit up by the sun. And it's just following those star patterns. But it's pre-programmed, and it's set before the flight, and it brings them back home. If the star tracker falls apart for whatever reason, doesn't work, the whole mission is shut down. They have to come back.
And so let me get it straight. You're saying that the star tracker is using the celestial navigation system to create waypoints, and if they fail, they don't do the flight. Furthermore, you're saying that they use these star-based waypoints in the day. Nah. Really?
Yep. Yeah, they have a special blue filter when they take off during the day. It's see, the thing is, when they pre-program it, they already know where all the stars are and their GP positions are. Say they have a mission to, which they did a lot over there in Asia, North Korea, stuff like that, Vietnam, whatever. Anyway, they pre-program the whole mission. So they know exactly where they're going, where they have to make their turn. In fact, at Mach 3, if you make a turn in the Blackbird, it's 180-degree mile before you make that 180 turn. That's how fast it's going. The pilot cannot control, he doesn't pull out a sextant. It's all pre-programmed. When it fails, he's got to come home because he ain't got a sextant. All he's got is the inertial navigation system at that point. So the whole idea is that they know exactly where every star constellation, the waypoints in the sky are all at all times. Sorry. So the whole purpose of that 30-minute pre-flight as it rolls out, it shows where they are in relationship to it so they can get back. So yeah, it's an interesting research I did. I sent everything to Adam and Brian. I still have it, but whether I asked them to do the presentation because I got busy. But when they use the equatorial plane as their main reference for all stars and celestial navigation, they already defeated their globe because they're now using a curved surface. They're using a plane. When they put a tangent plane on top of a circle, which they say is a globe, they already killed their globe because they're now using the circle, which is supposed to be the globe. They're using a tangent plane. The tangent plane in their pea-sized mind is supposed to be a disco square on a globe Earth that's kind of like a disco ball with all these little horizontal squares. Well, that's defeated by their next picture that they draw, which is the sensible horizon, which is the eye-line horizon, and also that airplane with the bubble sextant is establishing a horizontal. When you ask, is that bubble at 30,000 feet, is that a horizontal for local horizon, or does that go all the way to the imaginary celestial sphere as one plane of reference like the equatorial plane does? Because it must, because everything has to match with the equatorial plane. Now, the equatorial plane is an interesting reference that everything must match because it's a 180 when you slice that circle in half that they build, which is really a protractor over a flat Earth. Because 90 degrees would give you 5,400 nautical miles maximum distance. But because it's 180, that's 10,800 nautical miles of equatorial plane, all flat, that they're using in all the celestial navigation books to establish where the stars are. So even in their own explanation, besides the Jedi mind trick that you're on the globe, all reference flat Earth, all reference baselines, all say 180 or 90. It's a killer. The globe is dead. Even in their own books, it's dead. They never use it.
It's just cool that we're talking about the SR-71. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's all flat. The equatorial plane, the extended plane that they have to use at vernal equinox to get this to function from hell, is ultimately just a mask for the fact that everything is done with respect to that plane.
Yeah, the vernal equinox. The vernal equinox is the key because that's when the sun is right there at that equatorial plane. So if you can go with me here in hell, basically. And so now they have to use a flat plane with that position. Now, the reason they use that position is because they're trying to create a sky map. The Earth is no longer referenced. It's the sky that is the map. That's why in the equatorial mount telescope, you can be in LA, you can be in New York, or you can be in Munich, Germany. And everyone points to the same setting that's in the equatorial mount star guide. How can that be? I mean, the distance between LA and New York is about 3,000 miles. The distance from LA to Munich is really far. How in the world do they all point to the same coordinates to see that galaxy or those set of stars? Well, it has to be flat.
Did you listen to Angel's having his mind blown about the flat sky? I'll give a disclaimer before you answer. In the same way I described the conception of having a dome of vision as being false and just a description that we apply to that, the same can be said for the flat sky. That's just our way of qualifying how we measure it. The ground, however, we are physically on and can physically measure and do physically measure. Unlike the sky, which is treated as a flat plane above the flat sky, parallel with it at all altitudes. So again, that's a conception that I'm using to simplify a description of how the sky represents itself to us, and a further extrapolation from that representation is the dome of vision that then gets turned into the dome that 10th just described as the map of the sky. You can have a globe projected through that presentation of a polarocentric dome of vision, with the map of the globe projected through that, with you standing in the centre of that in hell.
Yeah, I heard that part from Angel. So here's my answer to it. In the same way, a set of clouds is above me, say 10,000 feet above me where I'm at, and I look towards the horizon and I see what appears to be clouds touching the surface of the earth at sea level. Say I'm at the ocean when I'm doing this. I already know that if I was over there, the clouds would be approximately 10,000 feet above me, unless the weather was different. It might be higher or lower, but it doesn't matter. The idea is the same. The clouds are not touching the horizon. It's a issue of perspective. It's an issue of perspective. The same is true of the stars. The same is true of the star. You back away from Polaris 1 degree, it goes from 90 to 89. You go to the horizon and you look at Polaris, where is it at? Well, you're 5,400 nautical miles away from Polaris now. So it can't be up in the sky. It's got to be at the horizon. So now you want a mind blower. That's 5,400 nautical miles of flat plane.
Hang on 1 second. Can I ask a question? Because
hang on.
I do want you to blow. Okay, go ahead.
Hang on. Did you understand that tidbit? Whenever something's at the horizon, that's 5,400 nautical miles. That's 90 times 60 on a baseline that must be flat. That's 5,400 nautical miles of flat Earth. Every time you see something on the horizon, it proves flat Earth.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, I'm going to do a couple of shout outs while you digest that. So, shout out to Mike808. He says, thanks for that 10th. 4 thumbs up. Also, Vlad on 0 degrees. Thank you for the super chat. Says 10th delivers great news info once again. Cheers. You're great for paying my mortgage, 10th. Thanks for being here.
Wait until your book comes out.
Hold on,
man.
10th man is here.
Yeah, you're a bit slow on the uptake there, Neil. Yes.
Hey, Neil.
Oh, well, I'm not in the same room. How you doing, 10th?
Good. I'm doing good. What was your question, Angel?
Okay. So Nathan, so we know that stars now do not change angle as we go higher in altitude, correct? So my question is, if we go not quite to the equator, but just before it, so that we see Polaris still, and it's not touching the horizon yet, we still see it, and we raise in altitude, are you saying that Polaris is going to stay where it is?
No, when you raise in altitude, just like if the sun is setting or going away, but we say the term setting, but it's just going away from us, and you're at the shoreline. All of a sudden, you lift up a drone, you're seeing more than you can from the shoreline.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for the sun.
So same thing. You can't change facts like that. I mean, that's just obvious.
What he's saying, let me just try and expand on what 10th man's.
Go ahead.
So he's saying that if you reduce your angle of view, this is where the perspective does come in useful. Shout out to Life is Short. If you are in the scenario you described, you've got Polaris right on the horizon, and then you get so low that you cannot resolve 5 feet in front of you, then yeah, there's a reasonable chance that you can make it disappear and then stand up just because you've limited the angle so much. But in principle, with the exception of how it would appear that they slow down, so as the star recedes towards the horizon, it doesn't recede at the same rate, that's 1 degree, beyond about, say, 10 degrees at the minimum. Therefore, it typically isn't used at that extremity. But in principle, to answer your question, yes, if you were to suggest that you've got a 1 degree angle to Polaris on the shoreline, so long as you're not right next to the deck and have limited your angle too much, notwithstanding that, if you were to raise in altitude, would it be 1 degree above the horizon at 30,000 feet? Yes, is the answer.
Well, hang on, Angel. An easier way to understand this is when they draw the tangent plane on the circle and then they draw a straight plane of reference to they always use a human being standing on top of that tangent plane. And then there's a plane going through the human being's eyes, stick figure or whatever, and that's called the sensible horizon. Well, that's flat and 180 all the way to the celestial sphere, just like the tangent plane on the circle is, and just like the equatorial plane at the center of their supposed globe Earth is. And the same as the bubble sextant 30,000 feet above. These are 4 parallel lines that are all straight. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one on the Earth, that's the flat Earth. The one in the center of hell doesn't exist. The one at the eye line is a horizontal that's parallel to the flat Earth, 6 feet above the flat Earth, if you're a 6-foot man and your eyes are right there. The one in the airplane is 30,000 feet, all parallel, all at a different, how can I put it, elevation from that fictitious baseline. Because see, the spirit level is creating a horizontal, but it's fictitious. But it has to, because it must match the Earth you live on, because it must be parallel to it.
Exactly, it must be parallel with it. So if you create an imaginary parallel with a bubble sextant, it is still parallel with the ground. So you've got the ground, and then that line that you've created parallel with it. But if you've got a guy above that, 30,000 feet, creating the same line with a bubble sextant, his line's parallel with your line, which is parallel with the ground. Furthermore, you're both measuring the same angle to the star with your sextant. So the guy on the ground, the guy with the first level with his bubble, and the guy at 30,000 feet with his bubble are all measuring the same angle to the parallel sky, with the parallel line at 30,000 feet, the parallel line at 30,000 feet matching the one at 1,000 feet, and matching the surface. They're all parallel.
Wow, that's crazy.
Furthermore, the crowning point that destroys the globe is that all the measurements for GPs for all the navigational stars are based from the equatorial plane, which is a 180, never a globe surface. And everything must match that, which means no matter where you are, you must have a parallel, because what is the equatorial curve? No, it's an equatorial plane.
Right, well, as on screen now. Hope you like my diagrams. I stole them all from you. This is the equatorial and extended celestial plane with the globe Earth as a protractor, and what Tenth's described as the map. Those are the projected points on this circle, if not sphere. It's representing a sphere of the heavens wrapped around this giant plane, bifurcating Earth based on a Polaris-centric equatorial plane that gives you that basically protractor in the middle of this diagram. So the majority of the slides that I currently use, this is the 4th, I think, incarnation of the Flat Earth debate slides, and currently they're 90% tenths that you've sent me, and I've gone, yeah, I'll keep that. And then when I went and did a public appearance about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, I put together a slideshow for that, and I'd got a base outline of the questions and stuff that I was going to go through with the audience, and I thought, these are the slides that I'll use to go along with the points that I'm making. And they've ended up being the Flat Earth debate slides now. So I hope you like them, Tenth. As I say, you're obviously familiar with most of them.
A picture, what is it? A picture can tell 1,000 words or something like that. So, yeah, just remember that when they show that protractor, like you see there above that plane in this picture, you see that semicircle, half a globe there. That's just a protractor. And then the outer part with the lines is the celestial sphere. And forget that orbiting motion, that doesn't exist. So the whole point here, let me get my thoughts here so I say it right. When you look at the sun, when it's early in the morning, it's coming at you from the eastern horizon. When you look at it at noon, it's either directly above you if you happen to be under it, or it's going to be at your zenith, but maybe at a different part of the Earth. It's just going to be 12 noon, basically, for wherever you are. And then, as you see it go away, we use the term setting, but it's just going away. It's at the opposite western horizon. That creates the protractor view. That is our perspective view of everything. That's the way our eyes work. So what they did was they took the inner concave surface of that celestial sphere that doesn't exist, but it's really perspective, and they put you there on the arc of vision, so to speak, as you see here with the eye. They just put you on top of that part of that arc, depending the angle that you have to a star or the sun, and say you live on the arc of the protractor. They do that post. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, that's when they have to use the Haversine formula and PZX triangle. The PZX triangle and the Haversine formula has nothing to do with Earth's surface. It has to do with the sky. And they have to do that because the angle emanating from the Earth widens but retains the same angle. As you know, it just widens and widens, but it's the same angle. And so they use the Haversine and the PZX to put you on a made-up curved surface, which they never use because they have to always put a tangent plane there to use, right? Because it's got to match the equatorial plane, which has got to match the level. So you see the trick there. And so the PZX triangle, the Haversine formula is all post-production. It's all flat Earth measurements. In fact, our good friend, Mr. Subject Matter Expert over there on refraction, his name, please, someone remind me?
Andrew Thomas Young.
Thank you. Andrew Thomas Young says all refraction measurement studies, everything he did were from plane surfaces, but the Earth is not flat, so we'll take geometric considerations. Everything is post-production.
Yeah, everything has its genesis in a flat Earth measurement. Face Reality, thank you for the super chat. It says 10th is ace. Nathan is ace. This show is ace. 100%. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Not to change the subject slightly, but typically I'd be rounding up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to get myself a cup of coffee, settle myself in and stress the computer, because it's recently had a whole bunch of updates, a whole new Windows installed and a whole new GPU bunch of updates as well, graphics card drivers. So this is the only opportunity. Oh, of course, Neil's chanting straight through me. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, because I feel like you're looking to get out of here. 10th is here. Extend the show.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. I'll just round out what I was saying. So I will be continuing to run this live show. I'll step away and get a coffee while it's still live, because it's the only circumstance where I can actually stress everything all at once, because everything's running. And I think some of the ways that the computer actually functions have physically changed. I think this show's running on E-cores at the moment by the looks of things, from what I've checked, which is interesting. But I want to stress it and make sure there's no cracks and it's not going to fail on its arse when I've got a really important guest or whatever. Like 10th. Anyway.
I got 12 minutes, Nathan, so do what you got to do.
Well, I'm going to be staying live, so like I say, hopefully you'll chat amongst yourselves. Neil, I'll be leaning on you as I step away to get a cup of coffee while we're live.
Well, that's terrible because I'm working. But 10th man is here for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy? So
I was just going to say 10.
Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say 10th with the stars thing. So basically, someone could technically be on a certain latitude on the Earth. Say someone near Polaris, and they could get a drone, because I know someone that's got a drone that can go up like 7 kilometers.
What are you trying to do? Prove a flat Earth, or what a drone could do? What's flat Earth wins with any elevation angle measurement to any star. You need to end it right there, and make your claim that's undebunkable, because we can go to When this was being studied by me many years ago, personally, about a year on my own before I would come on the show and drip it in the pre-shows, I realized that all the books on celestial navigation were globe-related books, but everything in there was using flat Earth angle measurements. And I'm saying, well, this is a violation of law of non-contradiction here. I mean, you can't say it's this and then get this out of it when it's contradictory to a globe surface. So after I had enough to where I felt like I could do some presentations, I decided to include the great panel at FED to help the arguments get stronger. And obviously, the panel has done great because now we've used it for everything, and it's led to other discoveries because everything is measured flat baseline. You can't get an elevation angle from a curved baseline, my original statement, and the angle is two straight lines meeting at a common point called the vertex. And since you got a minus from 90 every measurement, that means it's perpendicular, which means you got a horizontal that's established and a vertical that's established. And it's got to be an acute angle. It can't be an obtuse angle. So within 90. Well, what part of that proves a globe? None of it. It's over.
That's it. I was saying this before. So sometimes we drift off into these things about the stars, and if I did this, and at the end of the day, if you just get down, crunch down to the bare bones, we're taking elevation angles from sea level, from a horizontal baseline. There's no mention of curvature in any of this process whatsoever. It's got nothing to do with curvature.
Exactly, one deck. Every process is flat, meaning this. When you're at sea with the mariner's sextant, you're using the horizon. When you're in an airplane and your clouds are below you and you can't see the horizon and you're pretty high up, you use a bubble, both horizontal. When you're inland and you don't have a horizon, you use a flat type of dish that you can pour in some heavy type of viscous fluid. Molasses would work. Mercury was the choice back in the day. You must set it up level. And you must make sure there's a wind protection so that the wind doesn't disturb that level water. And then you do a reflection with your sextant of the sun off of the mercury or the molasses. And you have to do a half the amount because of the double reflection. So the whole point is the molasses or the mercury with the inland process, which is called the artificial horizon. So they create an artificial horizon with a bubble sextant. They create an artificial horizon with a very steady, flat, level dish with the mercury undisturbed to match the actual horizon. And there's nobody in hell at the equatorial plane. Even if you were, there's no such thing. So you see, it all requires flat. And so even the equatorial mount, the tripod that it sets on must be flat. Everything's flat.
I just want to drop something in here at this point. So I'm all set up now. There is a small possibility that this show will fail based on me stressing it. That is to say, pushing the computer to the limit to hopefully find if it does have that limit. And if it breaches it, that'll be the end of the live show. So if it does just unexpectedly end, obviously the usual things apply. Thank you to the panel. Thank you to the guests. Thank you for you smashing the super chat and all that good stuff. I just wanted to drop it in now just in case that does happen. Anyway, as you were.
I would like to add something. By the way, 10th man, this argument is an absolute killer. Like, I use it. If you can fully understand this entire argument, you can go into a conversation with any glober and it ends the conversation. They go away scratching their heads. It's great.
Yeah, or they have to live in denial, still pushing the globe, and have to change what an angle means, what perpendicular means. So now they look silly because they're going to say words don't mean things anymore because you proved the flat earth with those words and I can't accept it.
Navigation. Rock the sextant. Rock the sextant.
Is this your new song?
That's why we put the words together that they shouldn't be using, because like you've just described, and every word you was using was describing level, horizontal, perpendicular, plumb, parallel, angles. You know, these words are not associated with Earth curve or Earth
Yeah.
curve measurement.
It's interesting.
Nothing to do with it. And these are the words that they're using to describe Earth curve for some strange, bizarre reason. So I stop them personally in the tracks and say, no, you're not using that word because it doesn't fit in with your globe.
Yeah, you can't get an elevation angle from a curved baseline. That's number one. Number two, if they say it's a small horizontal local horizon, they're only kidding themselves. Because if it curves after that, the accuracy of the angle is gone and you're not going to end up where you're going. It's over.
Okay, interesting. So, task scheduler starts the show on the e-cores, so it doesn't reschedule them onto the e-cores after the fact. Very interesting. They've made a fundamental change to how Windows tells what software, what cores to use. If Craig's listening, he probably isn't.
I suppose that proves flat Earth too.
No, it proves that Intel want to fundamentally change how their chips operate in Windows, and that has made a difference that I've needed to have a look at. Now I know.
Technical mind. I just love his technical mind.
Can I just say, just let me get this off my chest. Stupid E-cores, stupid efficiency cores. Just give us big E-cores. That's not E-cores, P-cores only. Stupid P-core. Anyway.
You just changed the whole paradigm, but the only thing you're interested in is an Intel chip.
They give us little cores and big cores now. Little cores do certain things and big cores do certain things. Just give us lots of big ones. Don't give us stupid little ones. There's stupid things that go wrong. Anyway.
Okay, I got about 3 minutes.
3 minutes before you get on your flight?
Well, I got to get going, yeah.
Well, bon voyage. Heading home, right?
Yeah.
I'll stay in touch. Make sure you give us a ring, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I've got plan to be back on the, show because I've got a few presentations that I wanted to do, but I haven't done yet.
Okay.
No, these are all, how can I put it? I mean, we've already proven flat Earth and all that, but these are other things that validate what we've already proven with elevation angles, because we're going to use my presentations are going to show the practical use of the elevation angle in many other things that they can't hide. So, it's just going to steer everyone back to, this could only happen on a plane.
I see.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with trying to prove celestial navigation proves flat Earth, especially when their books do it for us.
Well, it's not like the Black Swan. We were talking about, I don't know if you've been keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate, but the whole front foot forward celestial navigation, we're proving Earth's flat with measurements. It hasn't had the same pushback that the Black Swan had, which is to say that the Black Swan's been dragged out for quite a significant period. Do you know what I mean?
The Black Swan is such a powerful argument to destroy the globe, and celestial navigation is the most powerful argument to prove a flat Earth. And if there were books with thousands of entries that would back up the Black Swan, they couldn't push back either. But because celestial navigation, there's thousands, millions, countless books, all proving they use a flat Earth, they have nowhere to go.
Jason Dean says,
say...
hold on one sec. Super chat says, the Clash are ace, says Jason Dean. Thank you for the super chat.
I would say that the Black Swan is paired with celestial navigation quite nicely. You put those arguments together, you've got, just adding insult to injury.
Well, again, like Nathan said, I was naive, I guess, when it first came out and QE put it out with the Modus Tollens. with BLMS B69's videos, it was like, well, this is the end of the globe. Everyone's going to get it. I think I said 7 months they'd get it. They still haven't got it.
That's a good point.
It's like
Still
the
don't
black
understand
swan
it.
and celestial navigation on the left, the right, and pitch data is the uppercut that finishes them off.
Nice. Yeah, the pitch data. Yeah, that airplane. I mean, I'll be getting on one again today. But yeah, I'm with Adam, Brian, Kiwi, everybody there at our panel. We've all known airplane. I mean, it's in the name, airplane. My goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, don't go there.
Flies
Bloody conspiratard nonsense
over
with your
emotions.
airplane.
Here comes AI.
No, the pitch data. The pitch data shows you're flying over a plane. That's all. Airplane,
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. But don't say it's in the name. Like that has some bearing on it. The fact that it's called an airplane. I hate.
Well, why would, okay, let me ask you something. What's the genesis of naming it airplane?
I don't know. It's
Lots
not
of emotions
because it's
I
flying on
don't
a plane.
remember, but AI came in and kind of really gave it to D Rose one day about that. Nathan, you remember what it is. Come on, think.
No, the pitch data. Without the pitch data, it might be a weak argument. I'm not even using it as an argument. I'm just saying, look at the name. If you're flying over a globe, why would you call it an airplane? That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to prove anything with it. The pitch data proves it.
My friend showed a book, by the way, on TikTok, and he said it's called plane flying. The act of like flying a plane is called plane flying. It was like an extremely old book for like.
That's profound.
Well, that's interesting. You got takeoff and descent in between, and then a plane at a level flight in between takeoff and descent. So, yeah, 30,000 feet today. 10th man will be flying level over a flat Earth. So I'll try to catch you next week if I can.
See you later, 10th.
See you later, 10th.
All right, bye-bye.
Happy travels.
I was going to say lift.
Yeah, it's something to do with lift. Brian would be casting this down if he was here. Me, I'm trying to stay alive in a game so I can watch the temperatures rise.
Nathan, in Master B, I put a picture I took of the moon that has the skydivers next to it.
I'm a bit distracted at the minute. All I'm doing is playing a video game to stress my graphics card, but hopefully you can chat about it without asking me to do anything.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Just
in case you cared.
It's an interesting.
If it all goes black in a minute, I'll wish I hadn't said that.
Yeah, just my picture's an interesting one because it shows the moon like up close with my P1000, and it's got skydivers next to the moon, both in focus, by the way, and it's just strange to me because if we were the skydivers in the photo, the moon would not be that huge sitting next to them. It would still be far away in the sky and small, like we always see it.
Didn't we go over this before?
Yeah, but it's interesting that how.
Yeah, don't bring this back up. It was a train wreck.
Okay.
We already did this, so don't try to weasel that back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Kiwi's put a stop to this. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, we're not going back to the friggin' skydivers in the moon. I'm sorry. No, we're not going over that territory again.
Is he done that because he knows I'm only paying half attention?
Yeah, somebody made a statement in Skype. I'm sorry. Somebody made a statement in Skype. You were supposed to do a video today. I think it was Liam.
Yeah. Sometimes the discussion's good, and when the discussion's good, I will always have it in the back of my mind that there is a video that we could be covering, but I'd rather the conversation continued. I felt it was a great discussion. I was talking quite a lot.
A QE on a side note, I don't know if you heard before, but I made Globey McGlobeface say planes fly backwards when flying east today.
I got to hear it.
You said
Yeah,
you
I
got it
got it
recorded,
recorded.
right?
What's that?
You said you got it recorded.
Yeah, do you want me to put it in master?
In master?
Hell yeah.
What's it?
Yeah, you can put it in master.
They don't get old, do they? Sorry, woke up late. Where's 10th?
He's already on his plane, I think.
He's left?
Yep.
Coming back?
I don't think he's gone forever. I think the plane eventually will pull in somewhere, from what I
Not
understand.
that. Is he coming back onto the show? Knuckle dragger.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I know the plane's going to land.
Jolly
Yeah,
good.
and it's not going to nose down around.
I'm glad we're all keeping the conversation going. It was good to see 10th. 10th recently had a bereavement.
Yeah, that's super interesting, Nathan, with the so if you have Polaris at 1 degree, you can technically get a drone, which my friend has one that flies up to 7 kilometers. It won't change angle. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, because the Earth's flat.
Yeah.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Yeah.
You put that thing in Angels. Could you tell them that you put it in Skype?
Tell Nathan?
Yeah, I'm just busy.
Yeah.
Just busy this minute, that's all. Stressing the computer. It seems to be going absolutely beautifully, which I'm quite amazed at. There we go. Like I say, if it all goes black in the next 20 seconds, I'll wish I hadn't said that.
Shut up, Flatsy.
That's what I was waiting for.
I heard you, and I heard you. I bet you were waiting for that.
Yeah, I'm not at home right now, but I'm all alone. So I wanted to jump
Aw.
on since you guys.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm not
Where's
all
Bugger?
alone now because I have all of you.
Where's Bugger?
The other
He's
day,
with his meme.
he said that he despised people making gulping sounds and consuming anything via their mouth on mic. What are you eating there, Kiwi?
Say again? I'm
Nothing,
sorry.
nothing at all.
You ask me? I'm sorry. Did you ask me something?
I was just pointing out the other day you were talking about Planet Peterson gulping his drink and saying that you despised it.
Oh yeah, that swallowing sound. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead and play that.
I'm good.
That
for
annoys me too.
Planet Peterson swallowing sound, but thanks.
Anyone that swallows in their friggin' mic or just the swallowing sound, you want to piss me off quick? Do that.
Make
So
you go medieval on someone.
Say again?
Now, if QE hears that, he'll go medieval on someone.
I've got confirmation that Adam will be around bright and early, apparently, today.
Yeah, I was talking with him yesterday.
Jolly good. That's probably why he gave me a formal response, like he'd had a formal invitation to the ball. I can confirm I will be attending, Nathan. I'm like, oh, well, thank you, Adam. Now I know why. It's weird hearing Tenth talk about the book, because whatever it was, probably a year ago now, it was he and I and Chuck drafting it together. And now, obviously, it's all changed and all been ripped up, and lots of what he had done and me and Chuck had done has all been sort of put to the wayside, and it's radically altered over the months, right? So when Tent's like, oh yeah, you got the book coming out, and you're like, I've got a book coming out. Yes, that's right. It's just not the book that we wrote.
Yeah, unbeknownst to us, by the way. I mean, this was done on the hush hush, wasn't it?
Yeah, initially. Because like Brian says, that principle that Brian was talking about initially, which is that as soon as you start saying, oh yeah, I'm just starting to write a book, all you'll ever hear from there on in is, when's the book going to be ready, when's it going to... Well, you know, we'd got the bare bones outline of something that could have at any point been, you know, salvaged to publish if needed be, but it's just been turned into something a lot more polished. Well, that's worth the wait. Yes, the initial intention was to generate an extra revenue stream because I'm really poor. But you're like, I think by putting the extra effort in and just delaying it, it's ended up being by about a year in terms of the overall time to production, has meant that the end product will probably sell for a very long time. Probably after I'm dead. People are probably hearing this thinking, get you, yeah, right. Wait till you actually read it and then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, it's gone beyond the title and me as the author in terms of the quality. You know, the people around me have upped its standard so high that it will become infamous. And I'm so humble. I'm just saying it like it is. You know, it's only because it's been done with the assistance of so many others that I can say it with such confidence. In other words, I don't feel like, oh, I'm just bragging about how wonderful I am. No. With the assistance of others, it's become a reference book. I keep forgetting to just use the correct term.
Are we going to change the title to what I said?
I think that needs to be in the undertitle, whatever you'd call it.
Yeah, subtitle.
Subtitle, yeah. The Ultimate Flat Earth Reference Book being the subtitle. All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth being the main title of the book.
Should it be the Ultimate Flat Earth Reference Book or just the Ultimate Flat Earth Reference? We could sort that out in the end.
When are you going to release it?
Since
None of your business.
Since it's done.
Oh, okay. I thought it was that you're already finished. You're just like going to release it soon. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit.
You know, it's interesting because I mean, I'm sure you've thought about it before, but I'm sure most of the people that I speak to in these communities in different servers across Discord, most of them I think would have Nathan Oakley 1980 to give that credence to. Like, that was kind of the route that YouTube suggested, way back before they started censoring the algorithm and suppressing this information. And I think a lot of people actually found it through you. I mean, I'm sure you know that, but that's a big thank you though, because that's pretty cool that you were like.
Can you hear that?
That person.
Is that a small choir of angels singing?
Yeah.
I think it is.
No, I'm just giving you, that.
No, thank you.
The credit where the credit's due,
Somebody did it on Omi, and I was like, someone was like, "Oh, you're really smart," and I'm like, "No, I can pay attention. I can regurgitate information quite well, but I owe it all to the people around me who've done all the research and pointed out where I'm failing, because that also is something that takes." Sometimes people don't appreciate when you're critical of someone else that you're doing it out of love. I know that might sound corny, but it's the same in sales, right? If somebody doesn't return to buy something else from you, they're not going to tell you well, I'm not coming back because the thing you sold me was crap. If it had only done this, I'd have bought another one. Well, no one ever does that. No one ever tells you the reason why they're not returning as a customer. And the same principle applies when you're critiquing somebody. Like Daniel Pratt. Was that on a live show or did we do that behind the scenes? I've forgotten. Did you do that live, Huey?
We did it both.
So it's been
Behind
out
the
to the
scenes.
audience. It's not relevant if I haven't heard it. Okay, Huey did a show about, I think it was Creaky Blinder critiquing Daniel Pratt. And throughout the experience, QE's saying, yeah, he's wrong, but he's not far off being right with just a little bit of adjustment. Now, very kind, I thought, QE, you know, but you weren't wrong. There was many things to be praised about Daniel Pratt's approach. There was lots of things that could fall in line with our rhetoric in terms of how we do things. And it was praised in spite of being, strictly speaking, wrong. But you could see that there was just a slight path readjustment needed. Now, that is only done because, why? Because QE wants to help Daniel Pratt, in this instance, better his style of argumentation. Now, there's two ways that Daniel Pratt can take that. One, get lost, dickhead. How dare you tell me how I should do things? What makes you think that you're better than me? That's one way of looking at it, right, QE? The other is, so if I simply ask them for their observed phenomena if they're claiming science, they're screwed immediately. I see. That could be the approach, correct, QE? I don't know if he's even listening. He's probably eating something.
I'm eating something. I was watching, but I'm not listening.
My point being that when the critiques come, it's because we want you, if you're the one we're critiquing, to do better. Now, if we didn't care, we wouldn't be doing that. That is to say, it takes less effort to think, I couldn't care less what this guy's doing. You know, there's certain individuals that we no longer critique. Because it's like, why? We've done it. You know, the fact that numpty continues to perpetually do that wrong thing in spite of us pointing it out over and over again. It's like, why flog a dead horse? But for the most part, our intentions are sound, right? We just want people to have good arguments. That is to say, we want you to win. Then there's a new battle. Because believe it or not, is people out there that don't want to win. They want the argument to continually go on and on and on and on. They want it to be shrouded in mystery and debate so that there's a level of uncertainty that, I don't know if that gives them a certain level of mystique within the conspiracy forum. If it's undecided, there's a question to be asked that's exciting. I don't know what the reason is. I'm just speculating. But my point is that you can have the best intentions and go, no, we're out here to give you the best possible argument so you'll win quickly. And they go, well, I don't know if I want to win quickly. You're like, well, then you don't want to win. Then there is no helping you. So yeah, if you're out there listening to this and we've critiqued you, try and say it with Witsit all the time, right? Neil tries to pepper it in there too. We like Witsit is something Neil will say. Well, I don't know if I'd go that far. I'm indifferent. It's not that I'm saying it because I don't like him. I'm just indifferent. I don't know him. But when I hear him talking about Flat Earth and then segueing it immediately into ether, it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. And you're like, shouldn't you be hammering this home before you move on to your segue? Yeah, you've got your agenda with your true earth and your ether, but fine, do whatever you like. You know, more power to you. You be you. But if you're going to talk about Flat Earth to segue into that garbage, I mean, you be you, then at least put a nail in the coffin or two before you segue into your garbage. Don't leave it out there speculatively or utilizing science when it's not appropriate, or one of the many other things that leave a bitter taste in our mouth when true earthers talk about Flat Earth, which they often don't. They just title their videos that way to garner the views and then take them into some la-la land of ether. This computer has performed flawlessly. I'm not even joking. 36 straight hours of messing around with it. It's always the last thing you do, isn't it? Yes, Nathan, we're fascinated for you to tell us more about this computer. We love hearing
No,
about
we're
it.
not.
Oh, well, I'm really glad that
No.
you said that.
We're happy it works. Good job.
I'm happy it works. Bloody hellfire. NVIDIA had sneaked out a bit of extra efficiency, it seems, from their GPU, so it was running at much lower wattage for the same voltage, which seems to make no sense to me, but it is what it is. I've given it more voltage. It's now drawing the same power it was before and not crashing. Happy days. Can't believe it was solved literally 2 minutes before starting the live show. But that is the case. The last thing I adjusted seems to have fixed it. Always the last place you look, innit? You're trying to figure something out.
I'll get them off topic. I'm thinking about doing a treatment on Peterson, but it's a long video. Wait, we may do
Oh,
I may do a treatment Saturday, and then the next Saturday we'll finish it off on Ballbusters. How about that?
We're not doing Ballbusters though, are we?
I said this Saturday I'm figuring on do a treatment on a small part of it, and then the next Saturday we'll finish it off.
Yeah, man, I need a day off. I've got such a massive headache.
Do you guys know about the drama about Planet Peterson on TikTok?
Is it related to the subject specifically about flat Earth or globe Earth, or the debate therein that isn't existent in reality? That's a no, isn't it? That's a. He used to be a double glazing salesman and sold people the UV protection that didn't. I don't care. Is that what this is going to be?
It's all good. No. Don't worry about it.
Go on then.
Oh, you want to hear it?
No,
Yeah.
but the
God,
audience
go
is
ahead.
going to want to now. You've obviously left it in that cliffhanger EastEnders style that's going to want people to talk about it.
Oh.
And then we're going to get
So,
to
I
the
don't
plane
know.
flying back. And then
I
we'll
don't know
get to
if
the
he's
plane
still
flying
around.
backwards.
You're not listening to QE.
And then we'll get
Go
to the
ahead.
plane flying backwards. It's sitting in Master B. So go ahead with Planet Peckerhead. What do you do?
Yeah, Planet Peckerhead. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so he has a Discord server that he enabled some like miners in it, and there's a whole drama going on about it. Also, what's his name? PhD Blitz was involved apparently as well in that server, like backing him up, and yeah, it was pretty bad. But anyway.
Is this what you want? Schooling Globy on Coriolis.
Makes the plane fly over the Earth.
Conservation of momentum.
Oh, so now there's no. So now there's no Coriolis.
Oh my God!
So now there's no Coriolis.
Oh, got you.
Do you understand if the atmosphere is conserving momentum with the Earth, there's no Coriolis, right?
You guys, like.
Can you wait? Oh, Glebby.
This is why when I wanted the new format in new/old format in politics Discord server, right? There's 2 or 3 people just making noise.
Yep.
You guys. Wanker, shut up.
Glebby, can we recreate Coriolis on a merry-go-round?
Oh, here we go.
Yes,
I've already been over this with you. I'm not going to go over this.
Yeah, because you're getting destroyed.
I'm not going to fucking do
You
it.
literally just said the plane moonwalks backwards. That's hilarious, dude. Come on.
Yeah, from outside. Yeah.
But when
you
the
have literally, you have physically zero
hang
proof
on.
of this.
Let's just say,
Hey, buddy.
I mean, kudos. You've got him there, right? He's
Yeah,
suggesting
he's so
that
bad,
his
right,
justification for it is from the outside plane of reference. It's going backwards. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying from space the plane flies backwards? No.
Yeah.
But that's how you've got to justify it with your conservation of angular momentum. Actually, linear. Nevertheless, that's what he's claiming: conservation of angular momentum, right? And there's a justification for it. He's got the plane flying backwards.
Yeah.
Who was that, Numpty?
Globy McGlobeface.
Globy. Yeah, so he said, right, when you're in the plane, it's not going to appear to go backwards, but when you're in space, it will. So I go to him, okay, we get a camera, we move out to space, it's eventually going to move backwards. He's like, yeah.
Not eventually. It's going to be moving backwards right off the cuff. Globy McGlobeface, he's a retard.
The reason they do
You're
it is
retarded.
because of, to put it concisely, a reification of an illusion. So there's an illusion called Coriolis. It's a not actual deflection. To negate the 2 reference frames required to do that, they, what's the word? Conglomerate the 2 reference frames into one and suggest that one leaving a single reference frame is conserving a certain amount of the momentum of the reference that's moving, causing a curve. You're like, so it's an actual deflection that they're then describing, with globiolus effect being the cause of it, because Coriolis doesn't cause anything. It's an illusion.
Exactly.
It's an effect. An effect doesn't cause things. It's in the name.
Yeah,
It's
My
apparent.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've turned the Coriolis effect, the apparent deflection, into a cause of conservation of angular momentum when leaving a rotating frame of reference that has no second reference frame to describe. Globiolus being the cause. It's just their justification for why we don't actually see anything happening.
They redefine it.
Hey, let's just say technically we can get a camera. We can get a camera, stay on the Earth, and we move the camera back until it's in space. Eventually, will that plane be moving backwards? Is that what you're saying, Levy?
That's what it
Let me say something real quick. I'm going to
But it needs 3 other people to tell you that, that's what he said when he's being asked directly and he's there. Just wankers. Wankers that can't help chattering their gums while they hear how stupid their globe religion is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. Who asked you, you stupid, dumb, globe-believing dick? Nobody's talking to this man or the other 2 people that are yattering through you. This is a neutral platform, though, right?
Yeah.
Neutral platform. So they can yatter through everything that you're pointing out. How stupid it is needs them yattering through you, does it?
I want to say something real quick to the audience. All flight will be similar to rocketry. So our current model of flight would not work on a globe if it were a globe. So everything will have to behave like a rocket if it were a globe.
What's up?
Is that Globy or you? Who was that guy talking?
That guy was a Globy, and I have no idea what he was on about.
Just decided to interject into the middle of the example with something new, just to put a bit of distance between the guff that he's tried to chat through and your example being made concisely. Wanker behaviour by globe dickheads, because they're losing. So what do they need to do? Oh, well, let's just have a completely random new thing injected about rockets. Oh, why? Well, because he's losing, and they all know it, don't they? This is what annoys me. This is what they need in order to throw the audience off track. If you weren't here, presumably this is edited, or I weren't here to dissect what's just happening, not in terms of the actual discussion, because that's a concise point that's already been made. But what's happening as a result? Are they conceding it? Are they snickering about how stupid their religion is? No, they're interjecting with a new point and ignoring every bloody word that's said on the neutral platform. This is what they want, right? When you hear globe idiots telling, I wouldn't go to Nathan, he's got a mute button. No. What they need is this. This is their version of a mute button. Interject with garbage through the top of any coherent example that annihilates their religious faith, so that nobody can make a coherent head and tail of it if you're an audience member, aka neutral platform.
Yep. But we're talking about things in the air, Globy, not on the surface.
Imagine the amount of trust that they have to put on those rockets in order for that to catch up to the ISS. I don't believe in all that shit, but imagine that when it's moving backwards and trying to go forward.
So, Globy, if we hover a helicopter, does the Earth rotate underneath it?
Nope.
Why?
Because the helicopter.
Did he say yes?
No, he said no.
Helicopter is moving with the fucking atmosphere. We've heard.
Why is he getting so sweary with you? No need to
because
get
he
so
knows
sweary.
he's losing.
No need to get so sweary, Globy McGlobeface. Just having your ass handed to you, son.
We've been over this.
So then there's no Coriolis, no drift. I thought you said the Earth has Coriolis. Now you're saying no, it doesn't.
Boom. Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. You seem to have a very good grasp of Coriolis, right? It's definitely one of your best strengths. That is to say, you understand it inside out and back to front. And you think it's simple, which is a testament to that. If you're like, it's easy. Yeah, easy when you know how. Right, so does the Earth turn under the helicopter? No. Then no drift, dickhead. Earth turn debunked. No 15 degrees an hour, you say. No Coriolis deflection. So it's not like we're watching it drift away at 15 degrees an hour, as is claimed. Like, not an actual deflection, just us turning underneath it. Is supposed to be proving we're turning. That doesn't happen. Yeah, that's the end of the claim. And you put a full stop under it. Under it.
It's going to get worse.
Also, there's another point that's just directly beneath it that's truly hilarious. They're saying that a hovering helicopter is accelerating.
Yeah, it's defying the first law, isn't it? By their estimations in Globiolis, it's a violation of the first law. It's increasing.
I didn't even think of that.
No, that's another point.
Yeah,
that's another point.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that because technically in their model or their paradigm, it would have to be accelerating because it's turning like in a circular motion.
It has angular momentum with the Earth, so a hovering helicopter in their retarded brain is hovering and at the same time accelerating angular velocity.
Yeah, that's when they conflate the two reference frames together. What it does is twofold. QE's just described the one effect. Something that's hovering is actually accelerating. The other is that they no longer have two reference frames to describe their claim to be proof of Earth turning, because there's no Coriolis effect. That's where you just got to, right? Boom, no Coriolis drift then. What happened to the 15 degrees an hour proving we were turning? Oh, that just doesn't happen.
That's what I said to him. I go, I thought you said the Earth has Coriolis. Now you're denying it.
As awesome as it is, right, it just reminds me of the earlier Flat Earth debates where, for whatever stupid, deluded reason, I felt I needed to facilitate this, allow them to cause this audio chaos. And it was only up until a point that Sleeping Warrior basically sat me down and showed me what the effect of that was on the point that was being made, that I decided no more. And from that day to this, Nathan's got a mute button. No, what I'll do is I'll shut you up. That would be the idiot that's interjecting between you and Globy McGlobeface with a random example. You'd be shut up. You got a mute. Yeah, no, you can't talk anymore. That's right, because you're just causing audio chaos, aren't you? Because your friend on the Globe side's getting his ass smacked. So suddenly you need to chat and yammer through every word that's being pointed out to Globy, who's getting annoyed, isn't he? Swearing. Oh, it needs several white knights to come in on the neutral platform to save his ass. So it's giving me a headache, no offence to you. But we get the general point. And we heard the example that you were hopefully hoping we'd reference with him literally saying planes flying backwards from space. I am pretty much delighted. I've stress tested the computer, looked at every core and every bit of the computer that's functioning, and it's all functioning beautifully. So I'm happy to actually round out and say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I think what's happening is the task scheduler for Windows has decided that anything that could be a background task and run on E-cores, efficiency cores, the little ones, will always run on efficiency cores. I think that's what it's doing. And therefore, the voltage of the E-cores is far more critical. And what I'd done just by laziness is just lowered the voltage on the big cores to the point where they're really efficient. And because the E-cores were very rarely doing anything, it didn't matter. But now they're actually having a load placed on them quite regularly, it would seem, with this latest Windows version. Their voltage was actually exceeding that of the big cores. And I think that was sending it wonky. So I've had to slow them right down, like by half, like half their speed. And that has matched the voltage of the big cores, and everything now runs stable. Now that has been compounded by NVIDIA updating their graphics drivers and squeezing a lot more efficiency out of their card. Kind of like I do when I undervolted it to make it run in my machine at a low temperature. So them adding to the efficiency and me doing it has meant that that became unstable at the same time. Hence, 36 hours later, I finally got to the bottom of it and everything runs perfectly again. Until the next update.
Hey, Nathan, what build do you have? What's your graphics card?
a 4070 and a 4. What he's asking?
All right.
It's a 4070 and a 14900K with about 4 different really fast SSDs. One's I think 4 terabytes, one's 2 terabytes, and the other two are a couple of 1 or 2 terabytes each. And then there's a bank of big, massive hard drives that are 6 terabytes each, spinning drives.
Oh, well, I'm assuming using the M.2 for the Windows, right?
Yeah, I've got 4 of them on the motherboard. So one of them is a 2 terabyte that's just got the Windows install on it and almost no software. And then another one has just got all of the software on it. And then the fourth one is like a backup that's got an old version of Windows in case everything fails. And I can't remember what I'll do with the third one. I think that's where, the third one's where I put all the shows. So as the shows are recording, they go to that hard drive. And when it fills up, which it does frequently, it's 4 terabytes and it fills up after about 6 months of shows. I just transfer them all onto one of the 6 terabyte drives, which are now almost all full. So there's 24 terabytes of backup storage, and it's almost all full. So, but I think by the time they are full up, they'll have made 8 terabyte SSDs that I can replace them with. They do make them now, I think, but they're just really expensive. They're like 400 quid each, and I'm not going to invest in that.
Yeah, fair enough. I was just going to say also with that video against Globey, it gets a lot worse for him. Like, so he says that the helicopter conserves momentum, right? But then ask him, well, where do we see Coriolis then? And he says, oh, when we move north to south. I go, okay, let's move the helicopter north now. Does the Earth rotate under? He didn't know what to say.
Yeah, you figured out the crux of their failure in the argument, which is that for there to be a Coriolis, Earth must turn underneath. That's basically it.
Yeah, then you know what he said? Oh no, well, the helicopter's powered, therefore they're steering, right? I'm like, okay, let's get a helium balloon and let it go at the equator. Does the Earth rotate under? He's like, oh no, it's moving through wind streams, man. Yes, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, okay. So there is still flaw in your Coriolis argument. What they're doing is they're taking you to the projectile, aren't they? When you discuss Right, don't do that. What is Coriolis? Where is the effect observed from? Always, without exception.
From the Earth's reference frame, right?
Yeah, from the Earth's claim to be rotating surface. And only from the Earth's claim to be rotating. If you're describing their claimed proof of Earth turn, that's Coriolis effect, it can only and will only ever be described from the surface. So to negate that problem and convolute what Coriolis is, they take you to the projectile almost immediately and get you arguing about what the projectile does. No. The projectile travels straight, it just appears to curve because we are turning underneath on the rotating frame of reference, says you on the globe, correct? So we're turning underneath it. Okay? Well, that would shorten flight times.
So simple. And then they also did your term as well. I used them against them because then they did the whole thing about, oh, if it changes latitudes, it's good. Then I said, no. What you're describing now is globiolus, not Coriolis.
Yeah.
I kept on referencing but you can recreate a Coriolis effect on a merry-go-round. It's got nothing to do with the shape, of it, changing latitudes. You can throw a ball up on a merry-go-round. It's going to deviate relative to the merry-go-round. It's just spinning underneath it.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, exactly. In other words, you retain the focus on what Coriolis actually is, rather than their convoluted nonsense of globiolus. What is Coriolis? Well, it's the apparent deflection seen from the non-inertial turning reference frame as a ball is tossed in straight motion over the top of it. From your vantage point, it seems to curve. The seeming to curve is the Coriolis effect. That's their claim, and nothing else.
And then, what he did was, he did the whole projectile thing. Oh, it changes latitudes. Well, I said to him, even if that's what you're saying is so silly, because you're saying the Earth conserves momentum at all latitudes, there still wouldn't be a drift.
Yeah, well, again, you could sharpen that up. So if they start appealing to globiolus with respect to Earth and its latitude, play dumb. Let me just get this straight. You're saying that how this globiolus deflection affects this projectile, not the observation from the turning reference frame, it would be dependent on, what's this word? Latitude? What's that?
Yeah.
The moment they
So
reference
dumb.
anything that requires a flat Earth to describe it, like latitude, that's where I'll take it. I don't care if we're arguing about Coriolis deflection that we don't have that's claimed to be globiolus. So your claim suddenly needs something that you don't have, that only a flat Earth will acquire. Well, let's just go to that straight away. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, hey, Angels. Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
When he start, yeah, that's all a heap of rubbish. Every part of that, he BS'd you about 3 or 4 times.
Who, Globy?
Number one.
Yeah, I know.
Number one. Yeah. He knows that they claim these days that there is a drift north to south, south to north. Right? When you brought him to that, he went, oh, well, the helicopter's not a projectile. That has nothing to do with anything, number one, because the helicopter is claimed to be in a separate frame of reference. So it doesn't matter whether it's got powered flight or anything else. The point is that it's not in the same reference frame, claimed to be in the same reference frame as the rotating body underneath it. So it's nothing to do with whether it's powered or not. That's number one. Number two, the conservation of momentum has nothing to do with the Coriolis effect.
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. If they want to bring up conservation of momentum, ask them which one are they claiming. If they say linear, say no, a rotating body doesn't have linear momentum. Then they'll have to say angular.
Okay.
And to conserve angular momentum, you need to be physically attached. You need to be tangibly attached to the rotating body. You won't conserve angular momentum unless you're on the rotating body. As soon as you leave that rotating body,
like
you won't conserve that angular momentum.
So you're talking like a
as soon as
car
you
on
start
the
going into
road.
angular momentum, it's over. There is no Coriolis. At that point, it's like, oh, so you're claiming there's no Coriolis.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, right, the second they claim conservation momentum, well, you're claiming that there's no Coriolis. There's no drift.
Yeah, that's the crux of the
If I
argument.
throw- if I throw-
Let me just affirm. Hold on.
No.
Yes, that's where you take the argument. Correct. As soon as they say that you've got 2 reference frames only being described as one, that is to say, it conserves angular momentum in their vernacular. Number one, it's the first law of thermodynamics violation. I'll explain in a minute. But secondly, there's no Coriolis effect. There's no second reference frame to describe the deviation with. End of their argument. Their claim is Coriolis. It needs 2 reference frames. You and your reference frames have been ruined.
Yeah. By the way, Nathan, I did that whole first law of thermodynamics violation, right? Is that the one where I said to him, right, I go, if I release the helium balloon and it raises up in altitude, that's a greater radius. How come it doesn't deflect more due to Coriolis?
It's got it exactly. You've got it. You've got it. So if I was going to do it with the helicopter, balloon's probably better. If your suggestion, again, we're into their paradigm to do this, so this doesn't sit that well with me, if I'm honest. If I'm to suggest that the ground beneath me is turning, and according to them, as a apology for why we don't see drift at 15 degrees an hour, the balloon that you release is conserving angular momentum. You can hear me cringing with all the incorrect references they use. Means that the balloon, as it raises up, tracks with the ground. That's their suggestion. In other words, there's nothing to see here. You release the balloon goes up. But according to them, it's tracking with the ground at the same rate as the ground. Well, that means that as it raises in altitude on a sphere Earth that you're assuming, the actual distance that it has to traverse increases as it raises in altitude. So to track with the ground at the same rate as the ground at a higher elevation, it would have to increase its velocity with no input. Straight up first law of thermodynamics violation.
You can't create energy out of nothing. Yeah.
But it's got to increase its energy to track with the slower ground beneath, because it's got to increase at an increased radial. It's like going to the further outside edges of a roundabout. You're going to go at a quicker rate.
Yeah,
well, if it's inferred to be at a higher rate on a sphere, it's increasing its circumferential distance, therefore has to track at a faster rate with no attachment. It's not tethered, so it's just got to straight up violate the first law of thermodynamics to do it. Why? Well, to apologise for why there's no bleeding drift. That's why we're into this nonsense. Because there's no drift to prove we're spinning, so we've got to get into this crap. Violating the first law? No, there's just no drift, if that's their claim. Yeah, you struck the nail on the head immediately. There's just no drift.
Yeah.
Angel,
you can't have it both ways. Yeah.
Remember I told you about the flight from London to Accra? Do you remember me mentioning that to you a few weeks ago?
Was that the one that... Oh, not really. Can you go over it again?
Yeah, London to Accra. It's a direct north to south flight, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just bring them, when they bring up anything like that, go straight to that. Because even your man Glowface knew that there has to be a drift, even mathematically within their nonsense. There has to be one north to south, south to north. Go straight to that, because London and Accra in Ghana are basically on the exact same longitude line. So the flight from London to Accra is I think it's 3 hours. 6.5 hours, of a flight, and it's 3,000 miles, right? They fly directly due south, right? Now, if what they're claiming was true, then the flight from London to Accra, to reach Accra in 6.5 hours, the flight would have to go not directly due south, but they'd have to go out over Holland and head for South Asia to meet up with Accra when it comes around to meet them 6.5 hours later. But that's going to be over 6,000 miles they'll have to travel, not just over 3.
Yeah, you're saying they had to, if it was true what they're saying, they'd have to cut it off. They'd have to take a different route to actually land.
Exactly. If you're on a rotating reference frame and you're leaving that frame of reference, the meter point is directly in front of you, and you're towards the center and that's towards the edge, then you're going to have to, if it's going to your left, you can't go straight towards it. You're going to have to go off over to your left at some angle at the right speed to meet that in relation to its rotational speed. That's the only way you're going to meet up with it. Now, your man Glowface went to north to south, right? Because he knew that within his paradigm, they don't not claim that there is a Coriolis effect north to south. They try and mess around with it east to west and east to west to east, but they can't mess around with it north to south, south to north. There is no conservation of momentum or anything, because the plane is only conserving the momentum it has as it takes off from that latitude. But the next latitude has a different momentum. The next latitude south, and the next one, and the next one. So there's no way around it, but they have to fly at an angle to meet up with it.
Right.
That's within.
Sorry, I just want to check if you're following along, because this is advanced level globiolis that you're being schooled in by Brian.
I know.
Well, this is actually avoiding globiolis, avoiding their whole claim of conservation of momentum, all that nonsense part of the argument. I'll just go straight to that flight, because within their paradigm, even Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he talked about that field kick in that football game, that was because it was a direct north to south kick. That's why he was able to make that claim and say that the out rotated underneath the ball for the ball to go into the goal. But the point being is that I go straight to that. Most of the time, I'll go straight to that if I can bring it up, and they have nothing. I have a couple of videos on it. They have nothing. You can't get around it, because the plane doesn't fly over 6,000 miles and head towards South Asia. It flies just over 3,000 miles and heads directly north-south. You can see the plane's path. If you can see the plane's path from London to Accra or from Accra to London, they don't go off on all these big mad deviations and fly double the distance.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, that's good one. Yeah, because what he tried to do, and I caught him out on everything. Every claim he tried to make, I just destroyed him, because he said, "Oh, the deviation happens." The globiolis claim, right, that he's trying to make is, if I'm at the Tropic of Cancer and I throw a ball, or projectile goes north, to the equator, then it's going to have a different speed as it travels over the Earth, because it's different rates of spin because of how their paradigm is. So I'm like, okay, but you said that the Earth conserves momentum at the equator and the point from where the projectile came from. So then there's no Coriolis still, because if it's conserving it as it travels over the Earth, there's still no Coriolis.
No, I can't. No, within that claim, you see, that's why as soon as that is brought up, I go straight to that flight. So don't go through all the nonsense of having to correct them on or I'll go to the conservation of momentum and point out that they're claiming angular momentum, which means that the object must be tangibly attached to the surface of Earth if the Earth was rotating to maintain that angular momentum. As in, I'm standing on the surface of Earth now. If the Earth is rotating, I'm maintaining that angular momentum. If I jump straight up in the air, I'm not maintaining it. So I must be tangibly attached, right, to the Earth, right? Yeah. Either go there and destroy them, or I'll go straight to that flight. I won't mess around. They can't argue against that. And if they try to argue, Brian, you don't know. I just tell them you don't know your own paradigm. That's what's right. You don't know. Maybe you need to come back when you. I know more than you about your paradigms. Maybe you need to come back when you know as much as I do, and I start getting arrogant with them because that's what they deserve.
100%. I do call that out sometimes. I know your model better than you. But what I do, right, Brian, the second they say conservation of moments, I'm just like, no Coriolis then. Because they can't have it both ways.
Well, that is true if they're claiming a conservation of momentum. They're claiming there's nothing to see. Well, that means there's no evidence of Coriolis effect. But if I just go straight to which conservation of momentum are you claiming? Because they can't claim linear, they can only claim angular. And angular requires the object or person or whatever to be on the Earth to conserve its momentum. You won't conserve angular momentum when you're not attached to the rotating body. That ends them straight away.
Yeah.
Well, just go where they take you. Just go to the planes flying backwards. Why not just end it there? It's a special place.
It's so dumb.
You have actually reached that special place, by the way.
Oh, you don't go there because you have to go through a big load of rigmarole to get there.
No, you don't.
Not really. I just tell them. This is what I tell them, right? I go, let's put a plane flying at the equator going east, which is with the rotation of the Earth in your paradigm. It's going 500 miles an hour. Does it moonwalk backwards because it's going slower than the Earth? Actually, I've had Globy McGlobeface just today to say it, yes, from space. And another guy the other day said yes.
The reason I don't go there is because I have to bring them into ridiculum. That's why I don't do it.
Yeah, but they believe it. They believe.
You don't get the results. I get there quicker, and you don't get the results that your way.
My way, I do. They just have to. They run off.
No, you don't. You don't get them admitting planes flying backwards. You don't do. I
don't get that. No, I don't get that result. But then again, I have to go through a load of nonsense to get that result.
No, you don't
do that.
Yeah, but ours is more fun.
I do. Yeah.
Well, you do. I don't.
What do you say,
Because I learned about the Coriolis effect off of you. You're the one that I learned it from. So I'm not going to get smart about it.
QE, how do you do it, QE? Do you do it how I said it or different or what?
You know how I did it. I did it with what's his face? What was his name? Can't remember.
Danny Green, is it? Or Danny T?
Danny T. Trooper.
I don't know who that is. Maybe I do.
Who was a lot more intelligent than Globy McGlobeface.
Just take them where they want to go. You know, give their claims a bit of structural support.
It's so sad, dude. This is another thing, by the way. This is funny. I had a Globy McGlobeface a while ago, and I've got it recorded. He said,
sorry. I'm sorry. Hold up, Angels. You bastard, Nathan. That was it's so subtle. Not few people can catch that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Go ahead, Angels.
Got it. Okay. I was saying, right, I had another debate with Globy McGlobeface Coriolis a while back. He had a merry-go-round example, and then he had a drone. He's like, if I fly the drone to the merry-go-round, it's going to fly around with the merry-go-round. I'm like, are you joking? Right? So he actually said it will fly around and conserve momentum with that merry-go-round, right? And guess who else I got to say that? Bob, the science guy. I go to him. Okay, if we're hovering a drone above a spinning merry-go-round, does the drone fly around with it? He said yes.
Yeah, that's where that's where their claim takes them. That's right. What you're doing is just taking the logical inference of their suggestion that makes planes fly backwards on a globe Earth that's a turning reference frame to a smaller scale example with a roundabout. And by their example and their claim, the drone takes off a spinning roundabout and tracks with it.
In my experience, now looking back, there is nobody that reaches Dunning-Kruger delusional, like scary variety, we're well beyond clinical, than Bob, the pseudoscience fallacy guy. There isn't.
And he's all right. He's a nice enough guy. He's just Dunning-Kruger deflector shields at 120%, isn't he?
No, he's Dunning-Kruger scary delusional.
Okay, by scary, you know about the.
He's
the drama with him
you
too.
Can see it in the. Hey, Angel, shut the fuck up.
No, swearing.
He's committed. If you look at Bob, if you look into those retard eyes, he is fully committed, Dunning-Kruger. It's beyond clinical. It's scary level. Just look at him.
Yeah. I have to say, Bob is not a bad guy, right? From by all accounts. But I only listened to something last night where Bob was talking to someone who I think is a flat earther. I think it's that Sky Free channel he was talking to. But he was saying that he's now going on to become an astrophysicist. And he's going to become a maths teacher, a maths and physics teacher or something like that. It's like, you're going further down the hole of nonsense when you're going into astrophysics.
Yep. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.